Greetings, brothers and sisters. So this is Wednesday, July 29th. I'm starting this video a little bit early. I'm putting some content in here when I want to react to some of this stuff without having to retrace my thinking process tomorrow morning after. So let's start here. Bunch of stuff to get to.
Rome and Jerusalem clashed over values with a great tragedy for the Jewish people. But the new Rome, the United States, views itself as a new Jerusalem.
We want to know what you're reading now.
What I'm reading?
Yeah.
It's a book by a historian by the name of Barry Strauss. It's called The Jews Against Rome. Jews Against Rome.
What made you pick it up?
Well, we lost that one. I think we have to win the next one.
Look at him fucking Prophecies. Alright, so that's this guy put together a good Phantom Pain, I don't know what that is. But put together a good compilation there. So, let's start with that. But there's more to come because BB's going to say some shit about his current visit. I'm sure what order I have these clips in. But that's a good place to start, right? All right, so I'll copy this and look it up in a second here. This is not good. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu after meeting with Trump. I just finished an excellent meeting with President Trump. When I say excellent, it's not just lip service. A conversation with full partnership, with mutual support, with an understanding of a common goal of ensuring that Iran will not get a nuclear weapon, as well as other goals. When they repeat the same lie over and over again, I talked about this in my book, The Choice, that there is, and I don't know where I came up with it. I mean, I wrote that in 2000 and over 12 years ago. But anyways, I talked about how when they tell these lies, when you tell a lie, there's immediate counter action that happens on the divine realm that it's meant to expose the lie. Like any deception on any level, like anything that isn't divine truth, anything that there's, and the more the lie, the more heavy the lie, the more, the lie falls, goes right against the truth, like it's the opposite of the truth. Because there's, partial lies, and there's lies that are kind of close to the truth, right, with a little bit of a deception, right, that are, there's variations of lies. But when things are just out and out deceptions and just all manipulations, those lies, especially when they're systemic lies and they're lies that have, implications that affect lots of people, the system, that are holding people back, and the lie are keeping people away from divinity within them and connecting with God. The more devastating the lie, there is a system in place to expose the lie for what it is and shine light on it and bring about the truth, right? And so the people that tell these lies, the way they combat it is they just repeat it over and over again, because the lie, the divine forces are working against them. And the more they repeat it, the more it gains power. And the more they get other people using their, everybody has divinity within them. Everybody has, in the Sajmark system, there's this thing called the Kashob. And it's the original thought that created the universe. It's a Sanskrit word. And this thought that, we call God, that created manifesting the universe from nothing, human beings have the capacity to create in a similar way. We have that same ability, that same thought force. And we're able to manifest, you think about all the worlds, like the Lord of the Rings world, the Middle Earth, or the Star Trek universe, or the Marvel universe. Out of human imagination, where people can manifest whole universes that people live in. Like, people are out there speaking Klingon, like an imaginary, from a shitty TV show. There's a language that's been created, the Klingon, that people speak in it. Like, people know how to speak Klingon. People have the capacity to create universes, eternal worlds, illusions, illusionary worlds. You think about like Disney World or something like that, where there's these rides, these illusionary rides and things, and all the movies and TV shows and books. This wealth of creativity and manifesting, reality. So when you get other people, because the people who lie and control things, they're not connected to God, and they're not really good at manifesting things. So they need to use other people's creative force to do that. And so they tell the same lies over and over again, hoping that people will repeat those lies in their minds, and those lies become like they keep on living on, even though the divine system is trying to erase those lies from existence. So then he goes on to say this: one of the best conversations I ever had with the President of the United States, our dear friend Donald Trump. His entire senior team was there, as was our senior team, and and here too was an opportunity to exchange ideas and also to coordinate things that are important for the security and the future of the state of Israel. Here he is talking about that shit, right?
סיימתי עכשיו פגישה מצוינת עם הנשיא טראמפ. כשאני אומר מצוינת, זה לא מן השפה אל החוץ. שיחה עם שותפות מלאה.
All right, so you don't need to hear that fucking whatever that is. Says here, this quote is a statement President Benjamin Netanyahu following a closed-door meeting with U.S. President Trump. So that was an accurate translation of what he said, and he's talking about a partnership. There can be no partnership when one side has nothing to offer, right? Like if this was a marriage, it would be some like decrepit, homeless, 90-year-old pervert marrying some beautiful young girl who's, talented and brilliant and rich and famous and like, somebody who's overwhelmingly successful, or the opposite, some old hag marrying some rich young successful man who's, has a whole future and has established, owns $1 billion company, right? Some homeless pervert, so it's not, and even that isn't an accurate description. It's even worse than that. So that's not good. So this is Trump calling into the morning show. Look at Joe's microphone there.
War in Iran. I know you're going to be talking about that today with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and you're going to be. We hear that you're talking right now with leaders on Iran, but Iran has come out publicly and said we're not talking to the U.S. We're going to pause as long as they're paused.
We are talking a little while ago because.
So could you tell me who you're talking to, Mr. President?
For some reason, we can be in the midst of a beautiful discussion, and they'll come out and say, we're not talking, or we didn't discuss nuclear. Well, that's all we discussed because they'll never have a nuclear weapon. They understand that. And we have had some very good talks, and very interesting with Lindsey. He was very much a hawk, as you would say, on Iran. And over the last few weeks, I would say that he became like, if you could make a deal, it's better making a deal in this case than just destroying the rest of the country. We've destroyed most of it, frankly. But he was somebody that said it's a good time to make a deal, nice time to make a deal.
What does a good deal look like?
Now, I wouldn't say necessarily he feels that way about Ukraine. He's very militant about. I mean, Lindsey liked war, to be honest with you, okay? I said, you're a nice guy. How come you like war so much?
Jesus Christ. Why is this guy fucking Ducey smiling?
He was a guy that liked war. I jokingly...
So, I mean, I would go back and watch this whole thing, but it's just so many fucked up things. But he asked him who you're talking to, and Trump didn't want to answer, because Trump's not talking to anybody. I mean, whatever they're telling him is going on there. There's nothing fucking happening. There's going to be no deal. Iran would be foolish to make a deal before the midterms. And so they're going to leave Trump hanging in the wind. And, America will be so weakened then. I don't know how Israel feels about that. They don't want a deal either, so we'll see how it all goes. But, Jesus Christ. Trump is unraveling. Like, he's gone over the edge. I said that in my last video title today. He's gone over the edge. Like, there's his cognitive abilities now. He's in Joe Biden territory. And that shit don't get better, like I said before. Okay, July 30th, Thursday, 2026 here. I would have put this in the beginning of the video. I already started the video yesterday, so I have so many things to get to, but there's a few stories that popped, whatever. Just it's every day. Like it's a deluge of things I can cover, not cover, because it's just all fucked up. But let's get into it here.
This was another report. Reuters had this. They had this exclusively. Iran is expected to receive within weeks a first shipment out of up to 400 Chinese-made shoulder-fired air defense missile launchers as it rebuilds its defenses amid the war with the United States. Alone, does this make sense? President Trump was asked about this today, and he said that if this report is true, it would be surprising.
I mean, it's hard.
Let's go to Trump here.
And that's really what Lindsay wanted. Yep.
All right, so he's going to address this thing here with China. But first of all, that's really what Lindsay wanted. Who gives a shit of what Lindsay wanted? Don't play like Lindsay's a martyr. Like, how long are you going to talk about Lindsay wanted this and Lindsay wanted that and how fucking great Lindsay was? Fuck Lindsay. No one liked Lindsay. Nobody liked Lindsay. I mean, I'm not sure why he kept on getting elected other than the fact that he had seniority and he was doing good things for the state of South Carolina citizens that they felt like, like all these other people that just hang around, Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi and, Mitch McConnell and all those other people. They just hang around because they can run unopposed. They're not challenged by the other party. And they have seniority, so they have, power and access to money and resources that they can bring back to their state, right? That's why there's a need for term limits. But no one liked Lindsay. No one fucking liked Lindsay. What the fuck you talking about, Lindsay?
One more, sir. Sorry.
And good job at the dinner the other night.
Thank you.
Did a great job.
Thank you. Appreciate that. President Xi told you that China would not give or sell Iran any weapons. And there's a new report that Iran's about to get 400 rocket launchers from China going through Pakistan to Iran.
Well, that would be surprising. I mean, things like that happen. But that would be surprising. He told me very strongly he wouldn't partake. And he knows I'd be quite disappointed. Yeah, please.
Okay, so there's let's say you have a job, you work for like a small business, right? And there's the guy who maybe created it, whatever, the person created the company is getting old and stepping down and needs to name a successor, right? I mean, this happened again with the Sajmarg meditation thing, right? Like there are some people who want the job and then there's some people who don't want it, right? There's countries who, they were like Britain, for example, isn't looking to become Britain of old, like the sun never sets on the British Empire. Like there's times where you just mature out of something like that. You have no desire as a country. You don't have the will force to want to take this top spot. Right? You see this in sports. Not every team wants to be a championship team. Some people just want to, be competitive but they don't want to put the effort in to do what it takes to like win the championship or whatever it is. Right? Of course, there's politics in sports, right? Where there's things you have to do to make yourself marketable as a player, superstar, beyond what happens on the sports field, right? You have to market yourself. Just like not everyone wants to win an Oscar. You have to, what you have to do to win an Oscar. What you have to, I mean, how you have what taints you have to kiss, like all this stuff. And so China wants to be the top spot. Like there's an attitude there. Like they felt, back when there was, Britain was robbing India of its gold. Like India had a ton of gold and, lots of gold. And they robbed India of their gold and they were looting India. And they used that money to addict the Chinese military to heroin, and then they kicked the shit out of them. And China holds like the generational grudges. They still hold a grudge against Japan for what happened in World War II and some of these other transgressions. Japan had to come out and apologize to them. And there's a long-lasting resentment and just an attitude that China has. And there's, I don't know all that much about it, but I know there's that. I don't know about Russia, but I think Russia feels the same way. Maybe the whole, the way they've been categorized, the whole communist stuff. I don't know. But both of those countries would like to take America down and take the top spot, like regardless of, any kind of relationships or whatever it is. There's people who want it, they want to be the king. And, there's countries that want that. And, that's what China has been working on for a number of years. Like they had a plan, like let's say your team is losing to another team for years. And your team just, does everything possible to beat the other team. They make their whole life they make their whole organization about beating that one team. And they set themselves up to be a good match or, a superior match to that one team. They might even not be that good with other teams, but they get all the pieces necessary to take that one team down, right? And that's what I've talked about this before with America. And China clearly and Russia clearly, are looking to do that. New World Order stuff. And, one of the ways to do it is get America bogged down in a proxy war. This is how America took down Russia. If you ever seen that, it's called like Charlie Wilson's War or something. And that, they were giving these missile rocket launchers to the Pashtun, Afghanistan. This guy was a senator. They were giving these rocket launchers to the Afghanistan, Pashtun people who were fighting off the Russians. And they weren't training them how to use them. And they had them, and they were just firing these fucking missiles. Half the times the missile would come out the wrong end. They didn't even know which, like it would kill the people behind, it would fire backwards. And they brought in some guy, this guy, Charlie Wilson, went out there into Afghanistan and started to train these guys in how to use these guns. And so, these weapons. And before that, Russia was dominating with helicopters. But they gave them these surface-to-air missiles that just took the, helicopters off the playing field, and Russia got their asses handed to them. So many empires, including Alexander the Great and some of these other famous empires, went down after invading Afghanistan. And so America learned how to bleed Russia dry. That's what they're doing with the Ukraine, of arms and resources and things. And now America's caught in this war, and China and Russia are in a position to help Iran. They both have a relationship with Iran. Just keep on going. They don't like Israel. They don't like the relationship. They certainly don't like what's going on with Trump. And so they're going to do everything possible to deplete America and, divide America and do the rest of it. And that's what's happening. Like, you can see it. You can see how America gets weaker every day. And they're, so of course they're doing that. Of course they are going to, and Trump can't do anything about it. He knows that we're depleted. He can't fight a war with fucking China now and Russia. Like, he's fucked. Like, he's, he spent all his capital in Iran, and he's completely puppeted by Bibi. And so everyone knows it, and Trump's on his way out, and he's going to take America down with him because he's a loser. He's a guy who drives companies into the ground. When you have, the system is so rigged. If you have $1 billion or hundreds of millions of dollars in resources, and you can get cheap money, that's how these rich people make money. They get loans, cheap money, with low interest rates from banks because they're rich, and they get these preferable, deals, and then the interest is 2% or 3% or 5%, and they can take $100 million loan and turn that money into a 10% profit or a 15% profit. So it exceeds the interest, and then they just borrow more money and keep on doing it. If you have a lot of money, you should be able to, and you have a knowledge of the game, the rigged game, you should be able to just turn a profit. But Trump couldn't do that. He kept on making one bozo decision after another, even though he was in this club, he was flirting with being a billionaire. It was only until he just started to grift and loot the American government and, use his position in a way that can't miss. Like, he's so fucking, but he's a fucking loser. Like, the guy was always a loser. He went bankrupt 6 fucking times. And no one in his position should do that, right? Like, there's, he has a sure thing. Like, there's people with money, it's just like a sure thing. So this dude in Nevada,
opening fire, unleashing multiple rounds in this North Las Vegas neighborhood.
this guy went around and they got him in all these doorbell cams. He was in some suburb in Las Vegas area. This looks familiar to me. I was living there for a bit. And he's just going from house to house firing at people's houses because he's all fucked up. And the cops come up to him, and like he drops his weapon, gets to the ground, then he just runs, and then they try to they chase him down. But he was fucked up on some kind of drugs, and he had an AR, and he went around the neighborhood and was just shooting. And now this, it seems like a way that they're trying to, maybe this legitimately happened, but otherwise, I would. Trump will totally go after your guns. Let's just put it that way. And the Democrats will help him if they'll, Democrats will run things, and Trump will, be complicit because because I'm sure they want to disarm you more than ever now. Okay, so I got about a bunch of more Twitter posts to get to from yesterday, but then this popped last night. There's, I guess Fauci pleaded the fifth 100 times, and we're going to get into his thing here coming up, where he blames Rand Paul for having to do to admit that he's guilty, right? Because that's what that is. That if you give the answer, you are going to incriminate yourself because you are guilty, right? So Fetterman weighed in because somehow he's on this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Fauci, I'm not here to perhaps attack you or defend or anything. It's really just more, honestly, I just want to acknowledge I have had members of my family die from COVID, and now I also grieve for people that I've met that have lost their business through the pandemic, and they'll never been the same. Now, during the pandemic, I was the lieutenant governor, so we were in the middle of all of that maelstrom, trying to find the right balance between protect life and protect the economics and for all of it. And I'm not sure if we got it all right or wrong.
Yeah, we got it all wrong. It was all fucking wrong. Everything about it was wrong, including them releasing a biological fucking weapon. So, we saw Laura Trump kissing his ass, saying the Republicans would be glad to have him. When Republicans mocked him mercilessly, even though he beat Dr. Oz somehow when he had the worst debate performance in history. And he's clearly mentally impaired in the ways that he's wearing a fucking suit today, right? But he's mentally impaired. He's depressed. He was suicidal when he won. He couldn't handle success in winning and becoming a senator. And then he, had to check himself into a mental facility after having a stroke and all these things. He's never recovered. He has auto processing issues. His job, being able to present himself in front of people, which is the number one thing. It's amazing how so many politicians suck at that. Like, they can't get in front of people and just be genuine and sincere. Partly because they're owned and they're, completely puppeted, and partly because they're just weird fucking people. And he's the weirdest. And the Republicans are desperate to get this guy because he's pro-Israel. Like, he's just so fucked up, right? He's got a couple more years left, and then he's going to be erased from political history. But he is the fucking worst politician of all time. Like, you'd have to be like in a coma to be worse than him. He has mental distortion. He has comprehension issues. He doesn't understand what's going on around him. And there's politicians that have this at the end of their career. He's had it since day one. Like, his first day on the job, he had to check himself into a fucking psych ward. Some guy came to visit him, and he was making figure eights in the air, and he was catatonic, and after being suicidal, and he couldn't do his job on day one. And then he just, came in, he was completely fucked up, right? And so, like, he's now a part of this Fuji thing.
But without a doubt, I can continue to question myself. But one that it's not about much more your regrets, but I have
much more your regrets. Like, you can't fucking articulate sentences.
One, and that is early on that there was the theory that the virus could have emerged from the lab. And early on, that became like a right-wing kinds of theory. And I thought it seemed to make sense. Now, there was a really advanced lab that was close by, and then you have this unknown virus out. So, but that became a very partisan thing. And now it seems now it's more and more emerging theory that that would have come from the lab. Now, I hope.
Jesus Christ, bro. Spit it the fuck out.
I think that the next time our nation's facing something like this, we are not become, as I might have been, blinded by the partisan idea that maybe the truth might come from a side that's different than you are. But I think we should really be willing to pursue truth, no matter where that may have emerged, after for all of that. So, and I now cede the remain back to the chair. Thank you.
Jesus Christ. Like, how does this guy get to talk, right? Like, that was fucking horrible. Like, his remedial ideas. I mean, his basic idea was that, the idea that was leaked from a lab was Republican-based, and then it was shot down in media, and people got censored for, because it had to come from bats. Remember, Fauci said it was bats. But, they knew it was gain of function, and they knew that they released the thing on purpose, and it wasn't, if it was an accident, why does China still exist? If China leaked a fucking, somehow fucked up and leaked COVID, had a lab leak, then why isn't China being punished? Well, because they weren't alone in this. This was a global fucking movement. Why isn't China being blamed? All right. So that's Fetterman. Look at how many of these skinks of reporters are dressed in red. So the big pharma got to Trump.
Well, the only thing you can really think about is the auto pen, because the most powerful thing a president has, they say, is the power of pardon. So he was pardoned by Biden, and I respect that. I know how powerful it is. It's a very powerful.
It's I respect the power of the fucking auto pen to pardon Fauci.
They say it's literally the most powerful thing a president has. Now,
It is the power of the pardon.
whether or not I sign my things directly, almost everything I sign directly. You're witness to many of them. He signed very few. The only thing I know that he signed was Hunter Biden's pardon, but I'm not sure that he signed, he probably didn't sign this one. So I can't tell you what the law is. I've heard that you have to have a lot of proof. You need to have letters. You need to have all sorts of things that the person operating the auto pen has to know exactly what it's all about. He didn't know what it was about because I saw him testify. So maybe there's something on the auto pen. Other than that, the power of pardon is very powerful.
So he's not going to do shit about Fauci, is what he's saying here. Look at this little frowny face, you little fucking frowny face, little Pillsbury Doughboy frowny face. Frowny? Why are you so sad? Why are you frowning? That fucking guy, right? This was a continuation from yesterday. I was talking about this stuff with Netanyahu and Trump.
Yeah,
How'd that meeting go?
it was great. It was one of the best meetings that we've had. And I always hate to disappoint our would-be critics who are trying to find, cracks in our alliance. And what they find, like today, is a wall of granite.
Wall of granite. This piece of shit, right? Now, aside from his ethnicity and his religion and his place in the country, these are people, right? Whatever you feel about Israel, whatever you feel about, America, whatever you feel about, these are human beings. And so there's the position you have, the power you have, and people start identifying with their position as a bad thing. Anything that you do is transitory. It's your life here is transitory. You're living a life here, and you're really a soul that's trapped in a human body. And so when you start getting into this kind of bullshit, you start feeling yourself because of your position. But this guy, right? This thing where he says,
One of the best meetings that we've had, and I always hate to disappoint our would-be critics.
You hate to disappoint them, do you? You hate to disappoint. You really, all your critics, all the people, all you talk about. One of the big issues with Israel, and whatever's going on, whatever you want to call this stuff that happens with the Jewish power structure. You can maybe debate the facts on what happened in Gaza, or maybe debate the facts of what happened with the USS Liberty, or any number of these things. Subjective approach. But the one issue that you can't debate is that if you criticize Israel and you're a prominent person, they call you anti-Semitic. Like, Israel is, you can't criticize them. Charlie Kirk said this. You can't, Charlie Kirk said this with Megyn Kelly. But you can't criticize them. He said, but you can't do it. You can't criticize them. Charlie Kirk, who said he was, whatever, bulletproof resume on defending Israel. And as soon as he said one little bit of criticism, they started calling him anti-Semitic, right? And that's the problem, because that's not true. When you put yourself in a relationship with other people, with other ethnicities, with other religions, and you're saying anybody criticizes your actions, they somehow are a hateful, racist, ethnic blood cleansing, hate crime doing person. This blood libel thing. And so you can, and there's a power structure behind it, where there's people who are, Jewish people, Zionist people who are in charge of the media in America and these other things. So they, for years, they wouldn't let you say anything about them. And if they did, you would get, attacked and deplatformed and the rest of these things. Like this woman I showed you who runs this group. Like, no matter what they do, they can't be criticized. Nothing can ever be said about them. They don't accept any criticism at all. And if you do that, it comes out of hate, not like, you don't like the way your country's being treated by them. You don't like the way they're treating other countries. You don't like their policies. You don't like any of these things. And that is like 100% there. And this arrogant motherfucker, right, is puppeting Trump. Like, they've bought politicians. They've bribed them. They've blackmailed them. They've done whatever they've had to do, taking American money and then using it to buy politicians. They've been a parasite on the American system. Grifting off the American system. And, and in the American system, you have dual citizens who are, making bank here in America, gambling like the, whatever that woman's name is, who's, whatever it is. It comes back around after a while. But she, the Marion Adelson, who gave Trump all that money, her husband, ran casinos and took that money, and he's, they're American citizens, but they're pro-Israel more than they're using their American status to, get America to bend to Israel's wishes, right? So you have all this stuff, and this arrogant fuck to come in and laugh. I hate to disappoint our critics, like this thing that he says, like so fucking dickish.
To disappoint our would-be critics who are trying to find, cracks in our alliance. And what they find, like today, is a wall of granite, because the president is so clear. I mean, we have a common commitment. We don't want to see this fanatic regime in Tehran have nuclear weapons to...
Jesus Christ, that fucking bullshit talking point. Even Sean Hannity, frowny face Sean Hannity are you really fucking rolling this bullshit out?
Threaten every American. And to threaten...
They're not threatening any Americans. They have zero threat. We're under zero threat from Iran having a nuclear weapon.
Peace of the world, and to threaten the existence of Israel. So we have a common goal. And it's going to be achieved, either through diplomatic means...
Okay, so just to review, because I've said this over and over again. There were times that Israel and America were bullying Iran, and Iran could have fought back, but chose not to. And, looked to make peace and all these things. And... the only way that they would use a nuclear weapon, if they didn't give a shit, it would be like a suicide bombing situation. Like, they have all these Muslims who are supposedly willing to die for, jihad bullshit, right? And, to some extent, there's small groups that actually use suicide bombing. There's some element of that, but they also say that these guys, these leaders, hide behind people, that they'll make a wall of people. Like, when they're killing these terrorists, the leaders will hide behind their own children or children. They surround themselves with children and make American soldiers kill children to kill them, right? They'll be shooting at the Americans with from behind a bunch of kids and civilians. And Hamas hides in the civilian population and makes Israel kill civilians. And Israel does their best not to kill Gaza civilians, even though Hamas is hiding amongst them, right? And so you can't have both things, because if you are, you know, somebody who has no self-preservation, like you are willing to die in order to kill somebody else, then you're, unstoppable, right? If you, like if you, whatever you're, if your people are willing to do kamikaze, suicide missions, these types of things, and willing to die, it's almost impossible to stop somebody, right? If somebody wants to kill you and they're willing to die, they've given up all sense of self-preservation. They've lost it. In fact, maybe they want to die. Then really they become a lot more formidable. That's why robots are going to be the worst. People are not going to be able to fight robots, and there's lots of robot stuff coming out there. I think I have a video coming up of a robot doing all kinds of shit. The robots technology is jumping, and I said this would happen because I heard them talk about it. There would be a point where, look at how much advancement there is in cell phones. When they hit a groove and they have the technology and the money behind it, and now they have AI, they can make unbelievably rapid advancements, and the robots are going to be like crazy good in a short period of time. And it's like with AI, I mean, there's just going to be no need for people to do jobs. Robots and AI are going to take over pretty much every job. And so that whole thing, they don't need like 80, 90% of the population anymore. You just, so, I mean, that's where we're headed. But, this idea that when somebody is suicidal and they're willing to die to take you out, kamikaze, does Iran meet that criteria? And based in a historic decision-making, they have self-preservation. And so even if they got a nuclear weapon, the only way to use it is because if they bombed Israel with a nuclear weapon, then America would have every reason to, and Israel would have every reason to drop nuclear weapons on Iran and destroy the whole country and everyone in it. So that would be it. So, they haven't shown any, even with the so-called crazy leadership and some of the, brutality of their leadership, oppressive nature of their leadership, have not shown any proclivity to do that. In fact, the opposite has been shown. And so, this idea is bullshit. That they would immediately use it once they had it. It's a bullshit idea. It's a lie. It's a fucking lying sack of shit, right?
Or other means, but we're both committed to that, and that's the main headline that I would tell you.
Frowny face.
Served at the NIH for over 54 years. 38 of those as director of the National Institute of...
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. We wrote my thank you for your service memes here.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Honey.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service. Served at the NIH for over 54 years. 38 of those as director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases.
Yeah, and you were grifting and taking pharmaceutical company payoffs the whole time, you fucking piece of shit. Don't pretend like you did some great service. You could have made so much more in the private sector. Plus, he has patents and shit, right? They develop things that were used, patents, and, he made bank. This guy's a fucking wealthy man who was totally taken care of. There's the wealth that he has, you could find the houses and the money that he had. But then there's all the perks you get from these pharmaceutical fucking evil companies. It's like when you make a deal with these foreign countries and you go over there and they treat you like a fucking king, and they have all these just privileges that, they're just gifts and things that you get, just lifestyle that you get. And they just, it doesn't show up in your bank account, but it's there, this whole thing. You stay at the best hotels and you get the best everything, and just, they take care of you in every possible way. They pick up the tab for all these things.
Over that period, I proved that I believe in and respect the value of legitimate congressional oversight.
Oh my God. Fucking.
In fact, I testified before and or briefed Senate and House Senate and House committees well over 200 times over those 38 years. During and after the COVID pandemic, I have appeared multiple times for hearings in the Senate and the House, usually under oath, and sat for several days-long transcribed
The paper is shaking here. Look at the
sworn
paper.
interviews,
Maybe there's a wind
answering questions about the very issues that are now the subject of this hearing. However,
on it. His hands are shaking.
given Senator Paul's
Look at his hands are
obvious
shaking.
obsession with calling for my prosecution,
Senator Paul, he's making about this Paul. Senator Paul.
his repeated slanderous comments about me, and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary aimed at embarrassing and intimidating me, the only conclusion
The only conclusion?
I can reach is that the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars.
You know, I made this distinction. There's people who are doctors and there's people who are healers. And Fucci is not a healer, right? I mean, he's like, you know, he did damage. All of us have suffered because of his, you know, lack of leadership and his, you know, fucking gain of function research and then releasing this biological weapon and then all the people who, you know, took the vax. So, I mean, he's fucked a lot of people's health up. I mean, he's the opposite of a healer, right? He's a herder.
Unquote. Any reasonable person who has followed his unhinged obsession with me would readily come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, and he's just doing what you would do. Like if you had fucking committed a lot of crimes and you were going to ask you, and now they have all the evidence that's there. They've had it for a while, and now the evidence is there, and everyone kind of realizes you fucked up. You don't have anybody behind you anymore. And, you know, you're getting old, and you're just trying to, you know, get it, you know, kick a can down the road long enough so that you die, and this all goes south. I mean, this all disappears. And so, you know, you don't want to incriminate yourself by saying something, answering these questions truthfully because you committed crimes.
Therefore, although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
All right. So that, you know, that's 100% about being guilty. You can only do that if you're going to incriminate yourself, right? You have the right not to incriminate yourself. You say, hey, if I answer that question, I'm going to incriminate myself. That's what you're saying. He said it 100 times. If I say anything here, I'm going to incriminate myself. It doesn't matter whether you're saying this guy's obsessed with me, Rand Paul, and he wants to put me behind bars, and I might misspeak for a second and somehow incriminate myself, and then they'll have to evoke the pardon that's there, because he has a fucking pardon, right? He has a pardon in place, and he's old as fuck, and, you know, Trump's going to be out of power. Rand Paul isn't going to be in charge of this committee in a year, like when Trump gets hammered at the midterms and the Democrats take over. The Democrats will be in charge of this committee and, you know, all that stuff. And so, I mean, like all that, there's no reason for him to take the fifth other than he'd be, you know, saying things that's going to incriminate other people. I mean, certainly his reputation will be fucked, but if he answered these things correctly, which he doesn't even have to do, you just get up there and lie more, right? I mean, I guess they could just show that he's perjuring himself, so I don't know. But that's, you know, I don't know if the pardon's going to cover that, right? But either way, you know, like he could just bullshit his way out of these things like everyone else does. You know, not answer the questions the way that, you know, not basically lie, but they don't answer the questions and just, you know, I mean, they can ask the question over and over again, you just never answer it. How many times have you seen people not answer the questions? It happens almost every time. So the only reason to invoke the Fifth Amendment is because you're guilty, motherfucker. So these Iranians have really nailed the Pizzagate aspect of this thing, this gluttonous motherfucker. Two videos here.
Pedal done. Your empire is done. Pedal done. You started the war. You thought you would win. Now look at the mess that your country is in. Look at it. Your generals crying, your plan was a bust. The promises made are now turning into dust. Marco Rubio was sweating, he's grilled on the floor. They asked for the billions you wasted on war. You laugh.
They got him. They got him with the years here. They got him with the clown ship. The clown being a clown. Here.
They asked for the billions you wasted on war. You laugh from day one. You
boom. They got the clowns. They got it all here.
niggas drowning in hate. You told stop talking about Epstein. Now listen to the crowd. Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Louder. Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Don't stop talking about Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. Louder. Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. You lied about Iran. Said Navy is gone.
All right, so that's the point there. They got him here. Rubio's on the toilet somehow. They were Epsteining the shit out of him. And so that's the first piece. They got the pizza here.
But you're just a BJ queen, the biggest disaster the.
Okay, so then they have the diaper thing. Let's go. There's another video that shows more of the diaper. You know, this video they feature Trump in a diaper the whole
You
time.
said you ain't no pedophile, but bitch, you are. They yelling worldwide for that Epstein scar, but you still the prez. Man, this shit's bizarre. You said you ain't no pedophile, but bitch, you are. The whole world knows that you perverted rapist.
So he
Instead, Iran
they're featuring him in a diaper the whole time. I am a loser, and then he's bowing before the Iranian flag. They got him in a diaper basically the whole video. You know.
war, but got cooked instead.
They're cooking him on it with his diaper on. So, you know. So there's that. Then this, I don't know if this photo's real here. So my wife sent me this thing about this woman, this his nurse. Trump's aka nurse carrying around a diaper bag full of pens. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. My wife told me about this nurse woman, and she sent me some stuff. And she's like obsessed with Trump. It's a weird relationship. I chose not to cover it because there's just so many things I can get to. But it appears she's got a bag full of diapers there. And it's connected to the, this is the thing that they have, and I don't know if they've doctored this photo. I don't know if this photo is real. But let's just assume it is because, if it isn't real, it's real in the sense that is real. That Trump is probably wearing diapers. Like that's been around for a while. We know Joe Biden wore diapers. And Trump has, he has really bad health habits and he's fallen apart. And I think, it's probably pretty clear he's probably got irritable bowel syndrome or some kind of shit like that. And he's, he's just a fucking pig. Gross, disgusting, gluttonous. Eat McDonald's food at age 80. This shit fucking kills you, right? And so, but that's the black bag right there. He's got is that the nuclear codes in there and also diapers connected to it? So, we don't know if that's real, but if it isn't, it's a pretty good chance that Trump is wearing diapers. So apparently this guy gives it to Fucci.
Constitution.
Let's just get one thing straight. You don't have any rights under the Fifth Amendment because you've been pardoned, as you very well know. As the Supreme Court has been clear for a century and more, Brown versus Walker, 1896, when he has been pardoned, he may not stand upon his privilege. You know that. Your lawyers sitting behind you now shifting nervously in their chairs. They know it. This isn't about the Constitution. This isn't about the law. This is about contempt. Contempt for this body and contempt for the American people. But I think I know why you're doing it. It's because you don't want to answer questions. It's because you did all kinds of terrible things. It's because during the pandemic you got rich, didn't you? You got rich. While people were dying, hundreds of thousands of Americans, over 1 million in the end, and you were getting rich, and not only were you doing that, you were using federal employees with taxpayer money to apply for and solicit cash prizes for you personally. Cash prizes totaling over $1 million. You did all of that during the pandemic, didn't you? That's a question.
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the.
To blame Rand Paul for all this, when clearly this guy's an asshole too. They all suck. But Fucci got kind of rung up here. All these stories. Look at this fucking guy here. These stories disappear. Like this will be a thing for about a week, and then you know it. Like this is what Trump counts on. This goes back to Bill Clinton, when Bill Clinton was impeached and he had sex with a fucking 18-year-old intern in his office, and you can't even call it sex because it's weird shit. And he had this weird relationship with Monica Lewinsky, and he got caught lying about it. He perjured himself. It was embarrassing. And he just refused to quit. In the Matrix movie, the original one, where Agent Smith says to Morpheus, actually the second Matrix movie, where he's killed at the end of the first movie, the Smith character, spoiler alert. And he says, I know what I was supposed to do and I just didn't do it. Like he was supposed to be destroyed as a program, like a software, it's supposed to be destroyed. But he refused to die. He just said, no, I'm not going to do that, right? And then he became this, parasite on the whole system. And that's what Bill Clinton did. He refused to quit. He should have quit his job. You get caught having sex with a woman that's not your wife, who's an 18-year-old intern, and then you lie about it, you perjure yourself. You have to quit. You have to quit your job. Like you just do it for the betterment of America. Like you piece of shit. Like you fucked up, you quit. But he didn't. And then he showed everybody you just didn't have to quit. You just, the difference between, say, Louis C.K., who admitted to doing what he was accused of Me Too, and he got Me Too'd. He lost $35 million in one day because he admitted to what he did, as opposed to somebody like Woody Allen, who didn't, or someone like Jimmy Kimmel, who should have got canceled for his wearing blackface and his stuff on the Man Show. And Jimmy Kimmel just went on vacation for 3 months. They had guest hosts hosting his show for 3 months. He just left. And we came back, everyone forgot about his thing. As opposed to Ellen, who, sat there and was doing her show while she was being outed as a piece of shit. Both of them were gatekeepers. But, he went away and just came back, and, people move on, especially now with the news cycle. You just don't quit, and you don't admit to anything. Trump has this down to a science. You attack the other people. You blame them, for their accusations. I mean, the blueprint is there for how to be a piece of shit, right? like the blueprint's already been exposed, and you don't have to ever suffer the consequences unless the powers that be say, all right, put this motherfucker in jail. Other than that, you're good to go.
Right here in Michigan, General Motors is expanding operations at its Factory Zero. Do you know what Factory Zero is? What the hell does that mean, Mary? Factory Zero. You're going to have to explain. In Detroit to produce some of America's most iconic vehicles, including the Chevy, well, I hear it's good, Silverado, right? The Silverado, really hot, right? It's going to be hotter after
It's
today.
going to be hotter after today. It's going to be really hot after America's the hottest country going. We're the hottest country in the world right now. We're the hottest country.
The GMC Sierra, the world-famous Hummer. I got to look at some of these. In fact, I said to Mary, how about sending me a couple?
No, send me a couple. Give me some. I just got a fucking plane. You guys give me some fucking Hummers. Hey, Mary, how about a Hummer? Hey, Mary, how about give me a couple of Hummers?
And one and only the Escalade. We ordered, I think, 250 Escalades, right? We ordered 250 Escalades.
Woo! Why not a million? Why do you order a million of them? Why don't you just order as many Escalades as possible? Order all of them for yourself and your team. Just get all the Escalades. You're getting plane. Get a spaceship. I mean, you're not paying for it. American taxpayers are. Just get as many as possible. 100, get 500. Like you deserve 500 Escalades. You fucking 100. Fuck that. At least a million Escalades.
That's how we look sharp in those cavalcades, We look sharp.
Yeah, it's important that you look sharp in your fucking 4 Air Force Ones and your 100 Escalades.
Those Escalades. Our guys are very spoiled. They're very spoiled.
Yeah, you know who's paying for that, motherfucker? This is admitting to like just being a piece of shit and grifting on the American taxpayers. They're spoiled. That means that you're taking more than you need for your team and your people based on America. You're not paying for them yourself, you fucking grifting motherfucker, right?
Like the Escalade, so do I. They were great to deal with. General Motors, they're making literally 250 of them, and it was about time.
It's about
Right
time.
here.
It's about time we got fucking more brand new cars. Fuck you guys and your taxpayers. Fuck you guys who's suffering for buying groceries. Give me my fucking Escalades.
And by the way, Mondami, you know who does own a pied-à-terre? That would be Comrade Mondami, who has a palatial estate in Uganda. But that's always the case. Fidel Castro was a billionaire. Putin is a billionaire. The leaders of communist regimes are always rich. They steal and rob from those they govern. Look at...
You mean Trump? Like, why would you? Like, this is another thing. Like, they just incriminate themselves over and over again. You know, what was that thing that I covered the other day, where the guy was it Trump talking about something? I don't know. Fuck it, it all blends together. But he was doing the exact same thing. You just said that all those people. It was a Charlie Kirk thing, wasn't it? Where you just incriminated yourself. It was a guy from Frank Turek from TPUSK, you know, that reverend, who was saying that some guy was up in front of a group of people in Utah, and he talked about all the things. Some famous. He has some big picture. Some guy wrote a book, and he said this guy was. He said, well, you know, you don't have to comb through all the evidence in a murder, like he's talking about the Charlie Kirk murder. And he says you just look for, you know, these three things, like sex, money, and power, all of which Erica Kirk was the sole. I mean, she had paid her. Someone just said she got $10 million life insurance policy as well as the $2.5 million GoFundMe. So she became, you know, really rich right off the bat for all that shit, right? But this guy just did the same thing, saying, you know, all leaders of communist countries are billionaires and they grift off the people, and that's what Trump is doing. And this dumbass Fox people won't make that connection because they're all brain dead. They're all fucking vaxxed up and whatever. Okay, so I tried to find this clip, but I couldn't because it comes from some documentary. So you got this guy in the bottom. This is the only clip I could find. They put this up at Twitter. But Andrew Covert, there's no Blake Neff here. Where's Blake? Where's Blake, Andrew? He said in this documentary, this thing here, it's just brutal. I might go to DPUSK, depending on how long. I think I've already got quite a bit of material here, so I'll put it all together and then figure out where I am. But here...
There's no words that you could use that would fully sum up what that moment was like. Shell-shocked, devastated,
heartbroken. You sound so emotional about it. I mean, just you're so convincing with your superficial fucking gay-ass beta male, two beta males sharing one testicle, low testosterone having, metrosexual. Just all these things that I felt.
Broken.
I'm so broken. I'm so broken inside, but it's like a broken.
You know, just completely beside yourself. Like
I was just completely beside myself. I looked over, and I looked over to my left, and there's me, and I'm like, I'm beside myself. And I look over to my right, and then there's me, and I'm beside myself. I'm on either side. I'm beside myself.
There's no rational thoughts going on in your head.
Like, you just can't even think rational thoughts. You're thinking irrational thoughts.
And, you know, for me, I
was thinking, like, I really want an Egg McMuffin. Like, I don't, like, I asked myself, I looked at myself on the left, I think we want an Egg McMuffin. Like, that's not rational. I don't like Egg McMuffins. I don't know what to think. I was like having irrational thoughts.
Kind of compare it to what maybe the disciples were feeling after Jesus was crucified on the cross.
You mean like Judith? I felt like Judith. I don't know. Why did you feel like Judith? Why did you feel like Judith? You felt like Judith. So that's fucked up, right? Comparing himself to a disciple and Charlie Kirk to Jesus, who Charlie Kirk was a fucking shackled up piece of shit. Charlie Shekel was a Judas. Charlie Shekel Judased his religion. He Judased his country on behalf of taking shekels for Israel. And then when he realized his audience was turning on him, he tried to back out of his deal, and they fucking whacked him. And you were part of the whacking. You and his fucking cunt of a wife. And so, like, you know, you guys were all Judases. Like, every one of you guys. DPUSK is the Judas of the right-wing Republican Christian movement. You guys are Judases. You're not Jesuses. You're not disciples. You're Judases. I mean, you are disciples. You're Judas. You're the worst one. You're the fucking worst one of a slew of not great disciples, 3 of which, one denied him, one doubted him, and then the other fucking Judased him. You had 3 out of the 12 were shitty, and you were the worst one out of the 3. Okay, so this is my last thing from just yesterday. Like, I'm just catching up. I had that one stuff that was from last night, and I don't think anything was from this morning yet. Like, one thing was from this morning that I saw. I forget which one that was. But, today's Thursday, so most of it was from Wednesday. This video is not going up till Friday night. And so I'm already full of shit here, like a bunch of stuff. And so Thomas Massey posted this. And Donald J. Trump, I don't know when this is from. Well, it's 7/28, so 2 days ago. The Massey massacre in the great Commonwealth of Kentucky had a really great impact on Senator Ron Paul, who will be running in 2 years. He's been terrific lately, President Donald J. Trump. So he's saying that he's got fucking Rand Paul under his control now after he took Massey's seat. And Massey posted this, like what the fuck, right? Like, I mean, just Trump being just an absolute piece of shit. Like, all this stuff is fireable. Like, he should be, locked up. I mean, he's just a fucking evil. Like, this is evil, demonic shit that he's doing. Like, so selfish. So, like, it's a system killer, right? Where you use political pressure, use foreign money. Thomas Massey got taken out by Israeli money. So Israeli money came in. Israeli lobbyists came in and stole his seat from him. There seemed to be election fraud on top of it. They stole his seat from him. And now he's got these other guys running, scared that they're going to do the same thing. And he's bragging about it like it's fucking, kosher. Fuck those goy, right? Fuck those goy, right, Trump? Fuck the goy. Okay, bunch of stuff to get through. It's now, I don't know, like 1 o'clock or something. I got to go do some shit. So it's almost 2 o'clock. So let me blow through this stuff here. And I'm just going to have to call it quits. And then there'll be like even more stuff piling up tomorrow. It's just so fucking so fucked up out there. So this happened here.
Consent to insert into the record documents show that the CIA transferred funds to NIAID through interagency agreement. Hearing no objection, so ordered. We had hoped to hear testimony from Anthony Fauci today. We haven't, but I think it's important that we do hear from him. So we will have a video we'll play in a moment. For years, Anthony Fauci has been the public face of saying this in all likelihood came from nature. He kept saying, it's the marketplace, it's the marketplace, it's the marketplace. He's been saying that on television up until...
This girl does not look like a real person or a dude.
Recently. But what we find is that what he was saying in public is different than what he was saying in private. In January, in private...
It looks like an alien, right?
He wrote that looks like the wet market was a super spreader event. It didn't originate there. We know that some of the earliest deaths and sickness came from somewhere else. But then for years and years, we got dishonesty. So let's play the video so we can see a little juxtaposition of the problem we're dealing with.
Fauci's journal entries contradict what he said publicly about the origins of COVID-19. Fauci admitted in January 2020 that the initial outbreak of COVID did not occur at a wet market.
Take a really good look at the animal-human interface and the fact that animals from the wild are being brought into wet...
So this is the thing where it says here in the wet market, this is 2020, 26, right? 26 January 2020. And then this is July 2026. I guess that's the date from here they're playing.
Wet markets, you have animals that come out of the wild that are sold at these open, what they call them, wet markets. Wet markets, where you bring animals in from the wild.
It'd be good if they had the date of these videos, but whatever.
Who have these viruses. The wet markets in Asia, where people bring animals from the forest into market. There are wet markets in Wuhan that are ample opportunity for a virus to jump from an animal. The origin was from a bat to an intermediate host to a human, very likely.
All right, so we get the idea here, right? Like he kept on pushing this idea of a wet market. It wasn't. Clearly wasn't. This was a biological weapon that was released to purposely. I've said it over and over again. He's just a lying sack of shit. This was early on, too. Or maybe not early on, but in the Biden years.
Well, if I become a punching bag, I'm a punching bag. But I am very happy to testify before any congressional oversight committee. I have nothing to hide. I can explain and validate everything that I've done. So, it's going to be inconvenient if they actually are out there essentially threatening to make my life miserable. But I'm going to do what I need to do, and that is cooperate fully, because we have nothing to hide at all.
Okay. So that didn't age well. Was the caption, and that is true. So this is Mika. So I want to see if these pieces of shit over at MSNBC and Morning Joe were going to cover the Fauci thing. And, of course, they didn't, because they suck. This is where, they're able to tell the truth about Trump because Trump has imploded and he's become their envision of wet dream that they had of Trump of, becoming an oligarch or whatever, a monarch on day one, a dictator on day one. And yet they can't transfer that over to their bullshit, right? And so they didn't lead with the Fauci story, this Morning Joe. They led with, I think his name is Cronin. He's a senator who is not voting for Todd Blanche, or one of these people, I don't know. And he's a Republican. And that was their lead story. And they didn't cover the Fauci stuff, but they did end up doing it in a sideways way, again, trying to shit on Trump. This is like, going back to Trump derangement syndrome when it really existed.
Let's do a little recent history lesson. Yesterday's wretched performance by Senate Republicans was the latest in a long, pathetic attempt by members of a political cult that has spent 6 years trying to desperately avert Americans' eyes from the real perpetrators of COVID lies, President Donald Trump and his spineless minions in Congress, some of who you saw there.
The fact that they're defending Fauci, this is, horrible. And they at least should have made it the lead story, right? That's the lead story.
The horrors of Fauci talking to Barbara Streisand, Julia Roberts, keeping count of his glowing press accounts, and because no one does that, not the president, and using data from the last U.S. global pandemic to guide early decisions was child's play compared to the deadly lies coming out of the White House. President Trump...
Right, so you get the idea.
Admitted to Bob Woodward on tape that he refused to prepare Americans for...
Okay, so, Trump is definitely guilty, but Fauci is the worst. And for this particular thing, Fauci wears it. He was a fucking shill, as she is. She's a big pharma shill. Mika. All right, so that's, this just horrible. These are horrible fucking people. And not just in the sense of their morality and just being bad people, but how dishonest this is. When the truth is just right there, but just lying about it. And it's all the things they complain about Trump. The truth's right in your face, but you're lying about it, right? And that's the fucking, it's just to fucking admit it. Even as much of a piece of shit as you are, you could just kind of, all right, you got us. We were wrong, whatever. You're not going to cost you anything. But still, you can't do that because of Big Pharma, right? All these networks are owned by Big Pharma. So BB took a fucking parade around Washington, D.C. in the media, bragging and celebrating and fucking, showing that he's not AI BB anymore, whatever the fuck that was.
We are going to beat the effing S out of them. He went on to say, we'll be hitting them hard. They're going to get a beating. So clearly the United States is going...
We're going to beat the fucking shit out of them. We're going to hit them hard. They're going to give them a beating. What was this guy's name? Where was it? This guy's name was somewhere. Trey Yingst. It's fucking Yingst. He's totally Yingst.
Now he's going to be in the dock. And I think that tells you that the whole thing that the mayor of New York is basing himself on, this criminals, bogus charges, that's what he's using. And look at what he's doing. He's fomenting hate. He's supposed to be the mayor of all New Yorkers, Jews, Christians, Muslims.
Okay, so he's going to say something here we really want to laugh at. But he's going around just like, remember this guy came in and 2 days after Charlie Kirk was dead said, hey, we didn't kill him. With nothing, nothing than people talking shit on the internet. Hey, we didn't kill him. I love Charlie. We didn't kill Charlie. Like 2 days after the fucking guy's dead. So, but the mayor of New York isn't saying anything about Jewish people. He's talking about this guy being a war criminal. So, like, that's, they never keep it to, all these guys, these lying pieces of shit, whether it be Trump or any of these people, they never keep it to what, people are upset about. They never can verbalize back and articulate what the guy said. And Mondani's a fucking poser. He's a piece of shit. But he's talking about arresting this guy for being a war criminal according to an international court that nobody pays attention to. All right, so then he's going to say this.
Everyone. But he's trying to turn one group against the other, and he's foisting hate and fear. I speak to Jewish Americans in New York, and they're afraid right now.
Okay, name one. Name one Jewish American in New York that's afraid. Name them. Bring them on the show. Name fucking one. This is what she should say. Name fucking one of them. Like, in what context does the Prime Minister of Israel that owns the fucking President of the United States talk to average day Jewish New Yorkers who would actually be a threat? Not billionaire fucking Mossad agents, but actual Jewish American citizens that have no connection to him. Like, how do you talk to them? Like, in what way do you talk to them that they come up and say, we're totally scared, speak out against the mayor of New York? Like, and he's a foreign leader telling, the press how to deal with, or how Americans should deal with, or, politicians in America, like how we should run things here. And he's done this over and over again. He's told us how college universities should run. Anybody who dares to criticize this group of people, all you have to do is criticize them, like Charlie Kirk said, right? So here's Charlie Shekels.
Fight for it. And there's another article out in the Times of Israel today. I could read it on air. I was just reading before I got on. Charlie, what are you doing? Like, what am I doing? I'm sorry. Like, let's just take a step back here. Like, I'm an American citizen. Yes, I want Israel to win. Yes, I'm a Christian. But, like, some of the mess, and you've seen how I've been treated, Megan, by some, not all, by some.
No, it's very irritating.
It's
been
almost
so
as if
unfair. They were coming after you after a turning point for, among other things, that you had Dave Smith there. Dave Smith is allowed to criticize Israel. You had both sides. The Israeli side was overrepresented.
Though. No, you're not allowed to. It's even worse than that. Again, I just want to repeat for the fifth.
You're not allowed to criticize Israel. Of course, he took a lot of shekels, but in general.
Time. I love Israel. I want Israel to win. But my moral character is now being put into question, Megan. Not my decisions. Not like, hey, are you doing this? Is it smart or is it dumb? But no, I am a bad person if I do this. And I could go, you saw it, Megan. It was trending on Twitter, thousands of tweets and text messages. And if I were to be charitable and generous, I will say the people that are attacking me are in a hyper-paranoid state because they're at war, and war tends to make things black and white, and you're a hammer looking for a nail. So I'm trying to be charitable, Megan. Literally, I'm trying to cut as much slack as I can, right? They go, okay, what would it be like if all of a sudden I...
Right. So, they called him anti-Semitic, all these things. But he said you're not allowed to criticize him, which is what I said earlier in the video. All right, let's get to...
Iran wants to destroy you. We're a model democracy fighting against the barbarians. And in New York City, the mayor of New York City celebrates the barbarians. And a day later, a Jew is stabbed, coming out of a synagogue. I don't think that's accidental.
Okay, so this was about how, this is again from Trump's playbook, that Trump learned this from that guy, whatever his name was. It's documented in that movie, The Apprentice, where Trump apprentices to this gay Jewish lawyer who tells him, it's funny, I can't think of his name, but anyways, tells him you never admit to anything, you never apologize, you go on the attack, you deny, you go on the attack. You really don't even talk about what's being, when you turn it on the other person. And Trump's doing that here because what Mondani and other people were talking about, how Jewish people are now being targeted because of what Netanyahu and Israel is doing, which is 100% accurate. How could it not be that way? Like there's all this hate and or at least criticism and whatever it is, negativity that's coming towards the actions that are happening in Palestine and other places, the puppeting across the board, the way that America's a puppet to Israel, all these things, and people are frustrated and they don't like it, and some of those people are even Jewish people and they don't like it, and yet they're going to be the ones targeted because they can't get to Netanyahu and people feel whatever certain kind of way. He's causing Jewish people to be unsafe based on his actions. But he's, again, deflecting here. How does this fucking happen?
It's good to see you again. You've been a stellar patriot, talking about what is good for America.
Yeah, what's good for Israel, you mean? Really? What's good for Israel?
What is good for our alliance, of which you've been a champion, and you've been telling it like it is, with no fear. And just an indefatigable and courageous commitment to the truth. And I want to thank you on behalf of the people of Israel.
Okay, I got to get I'm going to show the whole thing in my next video. We have more time. Like, how does this happen? Fetterman's reading here because he can't listen to somebody and process what that person's saying. So it has to go through his phone, and he's got to read what the guy's saying because he has audio processing issues. He's wearing fucking shorts here, just bizarre shit. Like, who had this in their bingo card, right? Okay, we'll get back to Netanyahu here, but here's...
You don't get on the Intel Committee, for the most part, unless you're an apologist for the Intel community and you're unconcerned with Americans' privacy and unconcerned with abuses of power. So this is perpetuated generation after generation. There's only 8 people in Congress who have any idea what the CIA is doing or the FBI. Everyone else is kept in the dark. So when you talk about a deep state, there's a deep state within the deep state. 8 people in Congress. They're the elite 8. They're the chairman and ranking member of the Intel committees in the House and Senate, and the leader, the speaker and the leader on both sides. Those are the people that get informed and get real briefings. I've never been to a classified briefing where they really gave any classified material. Most of them are window service, and they're sort of dog and pony shows.
So a deep state within the deep state. Good for you, Rand. I saw Israelis deep state murder Charlie inside a menorah days after he told all these people to go to hell, and then I saw his Christian friends lie about it. So I think I saw this before, but this is a menorah. You ever seen a menorah? They have 8 candles. This is for Hanukkah, and the UVU. This looks like Hebrew lettering here, and so you have this. Right in the center of the menorah, you'd have all these candles on either side, right? There'd be candles here, too. This is like, where the kids were standing or sitting. This is like an amphitheater type place. A place for kids to hang out on the lawn, for the college campus. And the sacrifice took place right here. Also looks a little bit like a home plate, reverse home plate, with, layers and things. But certainly the menorah is there. It's pretty fucked. This is a Mormon community. Like, this is I believe a Mormon school, and why they have a menorah here. And this is where Charlie Kirk met his end. This is what baby killers look like. Excellent. Well done. Welcome back, sir. Would you have like the usual unlimited funding? 2 quality memes. Okay, let's scroll down. I've got to admit it, that demon is smooth. He is smooth demon. And then I don't know what this is down here. So yeah, Israel wants you, all this stuff. This is all these leftists that are posting this. Israeli's occupation in 1948, 2000. Oh, look, this is a good little thing. It shows you coming in, right? Just Israeli occupation of Palestine. Look at them. They did this one up. They did a great job with this thing. The encroachment, the stealing of the land of the Palestinian people. So there it is. Look at how smug this fuck is, right? So Trump is taking a beating, right? Trump is, I mean, the forces on all sides are collapsing on Trump. The Republicans are going to bail on him sooner or later because, he has like somewhat left of some whatever base of dumb fucks he has left. It's nothing. It's nothing. He can't carry an election. Trump's upside down in the polls. He got, he got dragged into a war. He doesn't like this fucking guy. I mean, we know what happened, right? Trump lost to Biden. He claimed it was rigged. And Bibi was the first guy to congratulate Biden, like the first foreign leader. After all the stuff that, Trump had done for Israel, Bibi saying Trump was the greatest friend that Israel's ever had in the White House. And, the body wasn't even cold yet. He was already endorsing Biden, who Trump was in dispute with the results of the election. And Trump felt, how Trump feels about such things. Trump, all of his relationships end with Trump feeling like he's not getting enough ass kissed by other people, praised, whatever praise he was getting. Of course, Bibi had the Epstein files over him, whatever, Mossad bullshit he's got on him. But Trump doesn't even like this guy. But Bibi told him to go to war with Iran, and now Trump can't get out. And it's going to destroy him and his legacy. Like, he knows it, everyone knows it. And Bibi's, celebrating because he's just got, he's just partnered up with, his little dinky country that's parasiting off of America is now partnered up with the American military or close to getting that. And look at him basking here. Look at him.
We're descendants from the original Hebrews of the Holy Land. And we are.
Okay, so that's not true, right? The original Hebrews of the Holy Land were darker people. Like, there's a story here, and I don't know, I don't have the ability to fact check this, but there's these Khazarian people, and they are known to be like very criminal-esque and immoral. And their country was, in the Caucasus Mountains, somewhere, in towards where Russian area, Ukraine area. And you can look up Khazaria. And they were caught between Christians on one side and Muslims on the other, and they were getting their ass kicked on both their east and west borders. And they were surrounded, and they had to choose one or the other. But they chose to be Jewish. They converted to being Jewish because they felt like that was better than converting to one side or the other, and then they be the border between the two conflicting countries, right? And, they're not original Jewish people, and they weren't, this is the whole thing, because they're in the Ashkenazi Jewish people. That's the story. Again, I don't know, how much of that is true, but that's the story that's out there, and it kind of makes sense. But, real Jewish people from the Middle East, were brown or black or whatever. And so,
We're descendants from the original Hebrews of the Holy Land. And we are the first part of that Judeo-Christian heritage which we cherish.
Okay, so this is a bunch of evangelical people. And they're all white people from England or Scotland or Ireland or Spain or Italy or whatever, these evangelical people are from. Of course, Trump is from Germany, these countries. And none of those people are the original descendants of the Jewish people that were promised the land in Israel, not biologically or even in terms of their, their ideology. But he's trying to group these two groups together here.
And which has given the world the civilization of freedom.
These redneck, evangelicals.
The civilization of freedom and faith. And again,
look at how happy and smug he is, right?
We have to stand up and defend it. It's under attack from the rising tide of anti-Semitism and anti-evangelicalism.
Yeah, you guys too. In fact, it was more about you guys. You guys are getting attacked more than us. I mean, if we have to be honest.
Do. And it's not accidental that the two are coming under joint attack because we are one. And what I ask you is...
Now, what do you mean? You and the American military now? What do you mean we are one? You're not one, right? They're Goy. Those are people are Goy over there. You're talking to fucking Goy. Shut up, Goy. Sit down, listen to me. I'll pretend that you're a part of this, Goy.
Only one thing. Stand up. Stand up, be calm, don't cower. And, when you're faced with an attack, what do? Attack back.
Or, attack first in some cases. Or even if you're not faced with the attack first. Just basically always attack first.
That's all. That's my long speech. And, I'm very grateful to you for your consistent support, for the constancy of your friendship. And now it's time to fight, fight, fight. That's it.
So that Trump bullshit fake assassination attempt. Look at this smug Weasley motherfucker. I mean, just, looks like, it's like a human wrote it. Now look at this guy.
You are fighting right now. We are fighting right now against the dark side, the leftist, godless dark side.
The leftless, godless dark side. The leftists aren't like, what are you, are there leftists in Iran? Who are the leftists you're fighting? Right? The disempowered leftists out there? Who the fuck what are the leftists? Like, Jesus fucking Christ. You don't know when you've been played, Goy. Fucking Goy. Those fucking Goy are the worst.
But by the grace of God, we're going to win this battle.
Yeah, Goy, you're in it. You're going to win, Goy. Trump is the ultimate Goy out there. Charlie Shekels. How did it go for Charlie Shekels? He was the ultimate Goy. All right. Look at this guy with a mask back here. Okay, today is Friday, whatever it is, the 31st of July. Video goes up tonight at 9 p.m., and there won't be another video till Sunday. I'm going to add a bunch of stuff here at the end. It's just a kind of an epic video. I mean, they're all epic now because of the amount of stuff that's in there. I covered Stephen A. Smith, the shill piece of shit Stephen A. Smith, for going after Kyrie Irving for not getting the vaccine. The sellout, right? Complete, because he worked for ABC. ABC, and Disney and ESPN made the vaccine mandatory. And there's a woman who was pregnant or going to get pregnant, and she didn't want to take the vax. She was a reporter, and ESPN fired her, right? All that kind of stuff. And now, because of Fauci's, bullshit, Stephen A. Smith has finally apologized to Kyrie Irving. The title of this video is Fauci Proved I Was Wrong, Kyrie, I Apologize. That's what the title of the video is.
But none more so than the apology that I owe to Kyrie Irving.
Okay, so it wasn't just Kyrie Irving, it was his dad. Kyrie Irving came up and confronted him, at a basketball game or something. And then Kyrie Irving's dad got into it with Stephen A. And then Stephen A. came out and said, well, it became more about his dad than him. But Stephen A. and all those pieces of shit at ESPN, because their company told them to do so, went after Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving doesn't get enough credit for just not backing down on the vax, more than anybody else. He lost $100 million in salary, endorsements, and whatever it was. If you guys don't remember, he played for the Brooklyn Nets, and it was mandatory in Brooklyn. And so Kyrie couldn't play in any home games. And they had built kind of a championship team. Kevin Durant had come over there. They had James Harden. And Kyrie Irving refused to get the vax, so they wouldn't let him play. And then during that period of time, Kyrie Irving posted a video entitled Negroes to Hebrews or Hebrews to Negroes or something, and claimed that the black people were, African people were the original Jews. And there was some stuff in there. It was really not a good video. It was kind of truther-esque. It was on Amazon. And all these, Israeli pieces of shit came out and said, pro-Israel pieces of shit, all these groups, ADL, all these groups came out and hammered Kyrie Irving for posting a link on fucking Twitter to a video that they said had some anti-Semitic things in it. And the Nets suspended Kyrie Irving for 5 games. It was on top of the vax. But Amazon, they didn't pressure Amazon to take the video down. You could still watch it on Amazon, for a fee or whatever it was, right? But it's, not a good video. I watched some of it, and it was not whatever. Kyrie Irving wasn't certainly endorsing everything said in the video, which is what he came out and said. But they've suspended him, and it cost him, I think it was $2.5 million or $5 million or something. The suspension on top of all this, it cost him $17 million in suspensions for not going, getting the vax. And then on top of that, he didn't get a good contract. They ended up trading him, and he had to sign a lesser deal than he would have got a max contract And so it cost him well over $100 million to not get the vax and be public about it, right? Because some of the players like Jaylen Brown and Al Horford, who are on the Celtics, they wouldn't go. You couldn't travel into Canada, so they couldn't play in Toronto. And there's players that found ways not to go to Toronto, and then not to play in New York and Brooklyn, and then it was a stupid mandate. Like everyone else realized that COVID was over, but the New York mayor wouldn't change the mandate, and Kyrie Irving couldn't play. It was a whole thing. And Stephen A. and his bunch of cronies over there at ESPN, because they were, vaccine shills, went after all that stuff, that Kyrie Irving, cost him a lot of money. He just wouldn't fucking back down. Like everyone was pressuring him, and he was just like, fuck you, I'm not taking it. And he said, in part it was because other people didn't have a platform and couldn't stand up for themselves because they were being told they had to take it at work. And, there's this whole thing about Tuskegee and, black people being experimented on. If you remember that, they were given syphilis because the doctors wanted, and they weren't given treatment for syphilis, and they died, to study what the effects of syphilis on people. They were used like lab rats. So that's the whole thing, right? There's a suspicion there. My brother, who was in the military, was given all these vaccines, and they made him and other people sick. And he was telling me how they had Agent Orange, which is, of course, Monsanto glyphosate. That was the original Agent Orange, which caused all these health effects for Vietnam vets. And they would spray it in the jungle of Vietnam. The planes would drop it, and it'd kill the vegetation and cut a path for the soldiers, but they all started getting sick. And my brother said he was out on like the tarmac of the military base, and some high-ranking sergeant or whatever it was, some guy in charge of glyphosate, somebody asked him if it was safe or something. He stuck his finger in the fucking the barrel of glyphosate, and his finger came out wet, and he put it in his mouth, right? Like fucking, and so, the Agent Orange stuff we all know about Monsanto. So there's all these things, and my brother got these bad vaccines, and he was anti-vax because of it, right? There's, once you've experienced some of these things, it's bad. Like, you realize that this isn't for your, we've all of us who've had problems with allopathic health care and side effects from something or other, we don't trust it. We don't trust the doctors. We don't trust the science. We don't trust any of that shit. Now, Stephen A. Smith is a self-serving piece of shit, right? He, he's jumping on the Fauci thing. I'm not going to show any more of him. He's hard to listen to. He's going to, like, even in an apology, he's being like, everybody look at me, like it's a way, But I mean, the Kyrie Irving thing is at least a thing, that's part of it, like people realizing that was wrong. So I want to go back to what he actually said here. Okay, so here's a video from my Apocalypse Now channel from a couple years ago. I don't know, 4 years ago, Jesus Christ. And Stephen A. Smith said this.
Not just because of us, but because of the people that we were going to be around.
See, that's not how they're telling us the science works on this thing. They've said it over and over again. You're less likely to get COVID and pass it on to other people if you get vaccinated. I mean, that's... let's move forward here. I was so concerned about other people. I just cared about other people so much. Yeah. Like you care about Kyrie, right? No. Like, just be honest about what you are, right? Come on, bro.
And more importantly, the obligations that we have. I don't get vaccinated. I can't do first take. I don't get...
There it is, right? And I didn't even know he was admitting this. I was just caught, like, I knew this. Like, I just knew it. Now he's admitting it. He doesn't get vaccinated. He can't do first take. And his doing his job is more, well, his reservations to getting the vaccine.
If I don't do first take, I'm leaving everybody stranded. Not to mention compromise.
He's leaving everybody stranded. He's saying he's doing it for his coworkers, but it's the $8 million a year. He's the highest paid, whatever this job is, pundit, sports pundit out there.
My own bankroll and bottom line, which I was not going to do. Let me be very, very clear about that.
See, he's admitting to it. They're all laughing. He wasn't giving up his money. He wasn't pleased. You know, they told him if you don't get vaccinated, you're not going to, because he said he had some reservations. So he had reservations. And I think he brought up Tuskegee somewhere. You know, Kendrick Perkins also, he was shitting on Kyrie Irving for doing this. Because they were told by Disney, not just, you got to take the vax, but you got to come out against anybody who doesn't. And they're all laughing, right? Keyshawn Johnson is laughing, you know, that he wasn't going to give up his money. So they said, get the vax or you can't come into first take. You know, avoid your contract or whatever. And so he had reservations. So instead of being like, all right, I'll take the vax because I don't want to give up my job, he also shit on somebody who stood up and didn't want to take the money. You know, had more principles than he is, right? I mean, just not for himself, for, you know, his health, but also for other people. Kyrie Irving was talking about how other people, you know, weren't able to stand up. And it's now come out, you know, now so many years later, he's talking about Fauci. You know, the guy is a drama, you know, a drama fucking, I don't know what the proper adjective here is, right? Drama queen? I don't know.
I looked at it as being selfish.
Kyrie Irving.
And I watched Dr. Fauci on Capitol Hill yesterday. And the person I thought about most was Kyrie Irving. There were others. Aaron Rodgers, then of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, Aaron Rodgers less so than Kyrie Irving because he didn't come out. They caught Aaron Rodgers. But, you know, all those fucking people. And I have all the people going after Aaron Rodgers and that, you know, I have a long compilation about that shit, right? Let me just play the compilation here.
It's science, and you shut up and wear your mask. It's science, and you shut up and wear your mask. It's science, and you shut up and wear your mask.
You shouldn't cut anti-vax people out of your life. They could be dead tomorrow. Spend time with them, call them, get in the will.
Screw your freedom.
The latest data that confirms that we're still in a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Continue to be among the unvaccinated, are among the unvaccinated, are unvaccinated. The unvaccinated, there are people who are dying and who will die who didn't have to. If you haven't gotten vaccinated, do it now. Do it now. It could save your life and it could save the lives of those you love. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. The unvaccinated overcrowd our hospitals, are overrunning emergency rooms and intensive care units, leaving no room for someone with a heart attack or pancreatitis or cancer. This is not about freedom or personal choice. It's about protecting yourself and those around you, the people you work with, the people you care about, the people you love. My job as president is to protect all Americans. My message to unvaccinated Americans is this: we've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us. As I speak to you, millions of Americans are still unvaccinated and unprotected. And because of that, their communities are at risk, their friends are at risk, the people that they care about are at risk. But if you're unvaccinated, you're not. And you're putting yourself, more importantly, maybe from your perspective, your family and your friends at risk. Ultimately, those who are not vaccinated will end up paying the price.
You are not allowed to infect anybody just because you think you've got rights that are delusional, of course. This delusional, evil idea, you got to identify those people and bring them out into the open so you know who they are. If you're willing to walk among us unvaccinated, you are an enemy.
At this point, staying unvaccinated is like wearing a Yankees hat to a Red Sox game. You're probably going to end up in the hospital, and it's your own damn fault.
I was so worked up over the weekend about this fucking Aaron Rodgers of the NFL. I don't even know where to begin with that story. I mean, this fucking guy, I don't watch football. Sorry, I'm not a big fan. I know the guy's a real good football player. That's why they put up with his bullshit. If I ran the NFL,
he's going to be a Hall.
You came across as a national embarrassment.
He's talking to Aaron Rodgers. You came across as a national embarrassment.
There is no other way around it. It was the most embarrassing performance of Aaron Rodgers' career.
Jeopardy and possibly putting your teammates in jeopardy, to me, is selfish.
I'd give Aaron Rodgers some advice. It would have been nice if he'd have just come to the Naval Academy and learned how to be honest.
Southern California, where as of yesterday, we started giving the vaccine to kids aged 5 and up. Finally, our kids will be able to go to.
Let's see.
Woo! Woo! Oh.
I'm not vaccinated.
Where are you
going? I take horse pills.
Yeah, we have to wait for them to be vaccinated because they are selfishly a endangerment to other people, including staff people here. So while we're all hopeful, and I join the president in being hopeful that we can reach a place where it is safe for people to be. What is this, the honor system? The honor system as to whether somebody's been vaccinated? Do you want them breathing in your face on the strength of their honor? So let's just see. Let's just see. I mean, again, this is about science and governance. And science and governance, we have a responsibility to make sure that the House of the Representatives chamber is not a petri dish because of the selfishness of some not to be vaccinated.
Teach people common sense. You need to get she doesn't even know what else to do to get the people of her state to get smart and listen to the facts and get vaccinated so people don't die. It's like that simple. Is it not the people who choose to remain unvaccinated right now who are causing all of this?
It is selfish at this point to not get vaccinated.
If you can be vaccinated and you refuse to, that's a selfish act. You're putting other people's lives and health at risk. You should get vaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
The new cases in COVID are because of unvaccinated folks. But it's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks. It's the unvaccinated folks that are letting us down.
The people who are not getting vaccines, who are believing the lies on the internet instead of science, it's time to start shaming them. What else? Or leave them behind. Because they are keeping the majority of Americans behind.
I think I just passed a house with a Halloween yard decoration that was a bunch of skeletons burning an anti-vaxxer at the stake. I'm gonna go.
And so there it is. It says anti-vaxxer right here. Took me a while to see this. That's why I'm pointing it out. And it's got a bunch of skeletons sitting around a campfire roasting a skeleton anti-vaxxer. This is supposed to be a fire, which is pretty effed up. Like, it's really effed up, right? And what my wife pointed out was, what did these guys die from?
Not that Halloween is a contest, but they want it.
It's the platforms like Facebook.
They're killing people. I mean, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated. And they're killing people.
What he's saying there is that posting words on social media is killing people. And they've made this like the worst thing. That you're a bad person for posting things that aren't verified by the official story. This is a guy who droned children. He ordered the deaths of children in Afghanistan when he ordered a drone strike on an imaginary enemy to distract from a failed war and a disastrous withdrawal. And so there are horrible things being done all the time. But now they've made posting things on social media one of the worst ones. But it ended up not being true, right? He demonized anti-vaxxers and people who were posting things on the internet, and ended up being him who was the liar and the person that was putting people in jeopardy.
effects or reactions would be most common from these vaccines?
Well, generally, the most common reaction is what you see with most any other vaccine. A sore arm, a little bit aches, you might feel a little bit fatigued and down for 24 hours to 36 hours at the most. A small percentage of the people might get a fever that would last for 24 hours. You take a Tylenol, you can take care of that without much problem. The safety of severe adverse events is really very good. In the 30,000 people in the Moderna trial and the 44,000 people in the Pfizer trial, the one we're talking about today, there were really no severe adverse events.
They didn't list any side effects. I mean, that's, a sore arm or, these things. I mean, he's talking about just how you feel after you get the vaccine, not 2 months out or 3 years out or 5 years out. But now we know that there are multiple side effects, which I'll get into after we go through these things here. We know that there is admitted to side effects, things that they're investigating, and things that are related to people dying. And one of the ways we know that they were being deceptive and not saying what some of the side effects were, because they never showed you commercials that came from the pharmaceutical companies themselves. It was social influencers or media personalities or Jojo Magoo. It wasn't Pfizer posting commercials, because if they did that, they would have had to list all the side effects, which we still don't know what those are, right, in terms of what they discovered. And it's still being studied, right? It's not even like they're fully, it's fully been vetted by even the pharmaceutical companies themselves. So this was all lies, right? Again, they lied to people and said that this thing was safe and safer than getting COVID. And, this turned out to be not true, right?
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated. That it's to prevent severe disease, which we don't have data for that for kids. But I guess to me, the risk-benefit calculation looks like this. If the vaccines are safe and the side effects are things like fatigue and headache and muscle soreness at the injection site, I would much rather deal with that for a day or not at all. I mean, most people actually have no side effects. And so I would much rather deal with side effects like that, but understanding that we're giving something that is safe and that can prevent the possibility of something horrible from happening, which is every parent's worst nightmare.
The question asked by the presenter was that because children really weren't dying from COVID, why give them a vax and risk any sort of side effects and things from the vax? And she, of course, said that there was no real side effects from the vax, which we now know is completely false, right? And we know that kids, there's something like 1,500 kids or less than that was the official statistics on the CDC died from COVID. Many of them had severe health issues going into the disease, right? So what she said here is, that she's saying, well, your worst nightmare is your kid's going to die. Again, putting the fear out there. There is a positive association with the word safe. Advertisers and presenters use the word safe to get people to buy their products. Safety is a big thing with people. And when they're scared of something like they were of COVID, and they were offered something that would keep them and their family safe, and they withheld information or out lied or, just made false claims with no scientific basis, and saying this would keep you safe, then people went and got the vax. And now we know that things are different. And so all these lies and deceptions, and she had the nerve to say the unvaccinated can't be trusted, right? And so the other piece to this, which we now know, and both Bill Gates, I have the memes here, I've saved these things, and Fauci have both admitted that COVID wasn't beaten by the vaccine. The idea that the vaccine would give herd immunity and COVID would disappear because everyone would be vaccinated and they wouldn't get COVID because they had the vaccine, and then, it would just disappear because no one would have it and they couldn't pass it on to other people. This idea of herd immunity through vaccination. We now know that COVID mutated itself out of existence, or mutated itself into a more safer, more contagious form, and that everyone had ended up getting it anyway, So the vaccine turned out to be relatively unnecessary based in what these guys are saying here.
In beating COVID-19?
Well, sadly, the virus itself, particularly the variant called Omicron, is a type of vaccine. That is, it creates both B cell and T cell immunity, and it's done a better job of getting out to the world population than we have with vaccines.
I think what one referred to, what was not anticipated, was the extent of the mutations and the amino acid substitutions in Omicron, which is really unprecedented. It kind of came out of nowhere, where you have a virus that has 50 mutations, 30 of which are in the spike protein and 10 or 12 of which are in the receptor binding domain. The thing that's important is that it appears to be able to evade some of the immune protection of things like monoclonal antibodies, convalescent plasma, and the antibodies that are induced by vaccines. That's the sobering news against severe disease. But when you get to Omicron, the protection significantly goes down.
Keeping the events that are safe and also the events that have fun for people too. We can't be canceling everything, especially if we're going to be living with COVID for the foreseeable future. I would say that if you choose to go, make sure that you're vaccinated and boosted. Make sure that you're wearing a mask, even though it's outdoors. If there are lots of people packed around you, wearing a 3-ply surgical mask. Don't wear a cloth mask. Cloth masks are little more than facial decorations. There's no place for them in light of Omicron. And so wear a high-quality mask, at least a 3-ply surgical mask. And if you're going to be visiting elderly relatives.
Recently, when you said here on CNN that cloth masks were, quote, little more than facial decorations. So in light of Omicron, what kind of mask should we all be wearing? And were you surprised by the pushback from your comments?
Well, I was surprised because this is not the first time that I or Professor Osterholm or really any of us public health experts have been saying that cloth masks are not appropriate for this pandemic. It's not appropriate for Omicron. It was not appropriate for Delta, Alpha, or any of the previous variants either, because we're dealing with something that's airborne. We're dealing with a virus that's extremely contagious. At the very beginning of the pandemic, we didn't know about masking. And then we didn't have enough masks, enough high-quality masks for healthcare workers. And so we were trying to ration those. But then pretty quickly, we recognized that COVID is airborne.
Do you agree with the move?
I do. There was and is a time and place for pandemic restrictions, but when they were put in, it was always with the understanding that they would be removed as soon as we can. And in this case, circumstances have changed. Case counts are declining. Also, the science has changed, but rather that the responsibility should shift from a government mandate imposed from the state or the local district of the school. Rather, it should shift to an individual responsibility by the family, who can still decide that their child can wear a mask if needed.
Take New Jersey, the case in New Jersey, for instance. Their new case average is just over 4,000. Is that an acceptable number to do this, or are they projecting out to March 7th at this point?
I don't think we should be looking at case counts at all at this point, especially when we're dealing with a milder variant and when so many people were exposed to Omicron and therefore have at least some level of protection either through vaccination or immunity. The key number that we should be looking at is hospitalizations. If our ICUs and hospitals in that particular region are not overwhelmed, if they're not over capacity, we can set a number, for example, 75% or 80% full, then we should be able to relax all restrictions. And I actually believe that we should be starting to, with the first restriction removed, should actually be the restriction on children. Because while for adults, you could say, well, what's the harm of adults masking when they go into a grocery store? There actually is a harm that we should be discussing of children continuing to mask. That doesn't mean that masking doesn't have its place for children when there are very high rates of hospitalization. If we get a new variant in the future that children are particularly susceptible to, we may want to bring masks back. But we should also be intellectually honest and say that masking has had a cost, especially for the youngest learners, people with English as a second language, children with learning disabilities. There has been a cost to them. So the risk-benefit calculation has really changed.
But she's had the flu for 14 days. Should she get a flu shot?
Well, no. If she got the flu for 14 days, she's as protected as anybody can be, because the best vaccination is to get infected yourself.
and
So
she should not get it?
If she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. If she really has the flu,
she should not get it again.
No, she doesn't need it because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
The current vaccines are not infection blocking. They're not broad, so when new variants come up, you lose protection. And they have very short duration, particularly in the people who matter, which are old people.
I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection, and I think we overplayed the vaccines, and it made people then worry that it's not going to protect against severe disease and hospitalization. It will, but let's be very clear. 50% of the people who died from the Omicron surge were older, vaccinated.
Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market? If not, please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No. We had to really move at the speed of science to really understand what is taking place in the market.
The advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer based upon my rights under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution.
So he lists the various people who had problems. Andrew Wiggins ended up taking it and winning a championship, right, with the Golden State Warriors because it was mandatory in California and New York. And so the pressure was on the players in those places. You know, Aaron Rodgers, he said he got immunized, which he got some sort of, alternative health thing. He took a lot of heat, but he got caught. He didn't come out like Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving just addressed it right off the bat, said he isn't getting it. You know, and he was in New York, being in New York and California, that was the worst place to be because of their bullshit mandates.
For the Golden State Warriors in the NBA. List went on and on. But Kyrie Irving stood out in my mind because of the heat that he was taking.
Yeah, for people like you. Like this is, again, the way this thing works, I've talked about this in the past. Everyone knows what to do. When 9/11 happened, I said, Al-Qaeda did it. A dumb fuck response. Because I'd been trained, like all these things, the way that they had framed the narrative leading up to what happened. Like if Trump gets taken out, if Trump got assassinated, I bet Iran did it, right? All these dumb fucks. Because that's what they're framing it as, right? This is all coming from Iran, this kind of thing. But then, when you get awoken and you have a different perspective, then you're like, well, Israel's, because, and even that, who knows if that, it's, you just programmed all the time. You think you know things, you think you're having critical thoughts, but they're grooming you, they're dropping seeds, and even in the criminal aspect, there's a Skull and Bones, it's a gay little fraternity they have at Yale University, where they have this sexual humiliation stuff that happens. It started the CIA and the other, nefarious organizations. And they've produced presidents and all these people of power. And they get trained on reading the game. Like they're in all these different positions. You had Skull and Bones member John Kerry, who was in Skull and Bones at the same time as George W. Bush. And so one's running for Democratic president candidate, and one's the Republican candidate. At the same time, two Skull and Bonesers. Remember that guy from Meet the Press? I can see his name, whatever his name is. Don't tell me you don't care. I don't need to know. And he died. He asked both of them about Skull and Bones, and they can't talk about it. They can't ever mention it. There's nothing. They never acknowledge it exists. And so, and he ends up getting killed by a heart attack when he was 50. Like a younger person, to have a heart attack. But they just know what to do. Like they don't have secret meetings. They just they know what their role is. They know what they're supposed to say. They know what they're supposed to do. Everyone knew what they were supposed to do. It was clear that everyone in society was supposed to go after Kyrie Irving, Aaron Rodgers, and the rest of these people, and all of us, and say that we were being selfish. That was the big thing. We were, we weren't willing to trust the science and do whatever. Remember what Fauci said? He was the science, right? Like he was the voice of science. And now, of course, he's with him getting fucking humiliated. Like there's, getting a pardon and still pleading the fifth. Like I've never seen that before. But anyways, you have all these self-serving. Look at Stephen A. Smith trying to look like, solemn and like he's, but he's just doing this as a way to promote himself. It's all bullshit. But anyways, so that's fucking, these late to the party motherfuckers. No thanks. When you were there, when it was time to stand up, you folded like a card house. And now, everyone can come in after it's safe. Is it safe now? Like he talked about how he had problems with the mandates, how he had problems with, the vaccine. He had his own questions. But, like he said, he didn't want to compromise his money and his position. Disney told him what to do. And he went out there and did it. And not only just did he get the vax, but he went after the people who didn't. And Kyrie Irving was the number one target. And so fuck these guys, right? Okay, so this long-winded motherfucker. Armibla.
This broadcast, or really any news lately, you might have heard that Trump is crashing in approval. Republicans less afraid of him, don't need to work with him as much, depending on the issue. And that brings us to point number 3. The plan to install, controversially, his former personal criminal defense lawyer as Attorney General is derailed. That scheduled vote?
It came out, some of the victims, Epstein victims said, this guy was like, hey, hurry up, like stop fucking being so, dramatic or whatever it was, right? He was like trying to rush him through, like just being a prick. He's the guy who made a deal with Ghislaine Maxwell. This isn't why it's being delayed, but, well, maybe in part. But, at some point, the Republicans were going to realize that Trump's upside down, that his base is crumbling. And, they should see the writing on the wall, because even his dumb fuck base at some point will realize they've been fucked. And then they're going to be mad at everybody that was a Trumper, that everybody that, promoted him. They'll look at, like people getting out early, like late to the party motherfuckers like Tucker Carlson, these other pieces of shit. They're in good with the new MAGA, like the MAGA, like now, like they're like, oh, like we should have listened to Tucker. Like no, we should have listened to fucking us. Like, Tucker was 3 years late to the thing, right? Or, even the Democrats. And the Democrats are being fucking goofy defending Fauci because they say everyone just sucks so bad. But, like at some point the Republicans are going to realize that Trump is, they're all self-serving. And so as soon as they realize that Trump has little power to do with the base, and his base is like 20% now of the population. I don't know what percentage of the Republican Party is. And they're not, you don't see Trump fucking banners on people's lawns. You don't see as many bumper stickers, like you don't see Trump stuff like you did before. There's a lot of less stuff, the MAGA stuff. I mean, people are starting to realize like they're having doubts, and the enthusiasm isn't there. So the Republicans are stupid and they're weak, just like the Democrats are. But at some point they realize that he's fucked, and then when the midterms hit, like that's over. When the midterms, and they already kind of know what's going to happen, and so they're going to start to bail on him, and then Trump's just out there on his own, losing his shit, right, going senile. So we got some Fauci memes coming through here. They're not in the order, they're just going to pop in the remaining little clips I have to show you here.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That must be for some sitcom.
You say fifth. Go ahead, ask me a question. Did you? Fifth. I plead the fifth.
All right. This is fucking bad. Like, and there's people out there like we saw with Mika Brzezinski defending him.
The war. Do you want the House to come back before August 31st to act on the Russia and Iran sanctions bill after?
Well, if it's necessary. I mean, it shouldn't be necessary, to be honest. But if it's necessary, I'd like to. Are you talking about the Lindsey Graham?
Yeah.
So I'd like them to add Iran as tariffs, not just as sanctions. I think it's important. That's what Lindsey wanted.
That's what Lindsey wanted. All right. So, look, dumb fuck. We do not trade with Iran. Iran. I mean, there's no trade with Iran, right? What are you going to sanction? What are you going to put tariffs on if there's no trade? You dumb fuck. Now, first of all, sanctions cause kids to starve. It's been proven over and over again. You're making children starve. Sanctions are considered a lesser, evil than war and things like this, but it causes starvation in children. So instead of killing kids with drones and blowing up kids, you now are making them slowly starve to death, which is, torturous, right, for everybody involved. So, like, there's that. So sanctions are fucking just as evil as war, and maybe in some ways more evil, because it just, cripples communities, and it hits the rich people and the politicians. They're not starving, right? They're worried about, losing their power, or getting mobbed, but they're not the ones that are suffering. It's always children. But, and I'm sure the terrorists can also make that, be a part of that. Terrorists could be considered a form of sanctions, right? Where, just Trump being a piece of shit, this whole thing. But, just a moron here.
Sanctions. I think it's important. That's what Lindsay wanted, because I heard that they have tariffs on Russia, but not on those 5 countries having to do with Iran. I'd like to see tariffs on Iran. It would make it much stronger. So perhaps you're very good at this. You can maybe tell them. I think they should put in for Russia, but I think they should put in for Iran. And that's really what Lindsay wanted. Yep.
What Lindsay wanted. Let's do what Lindsay wanted. No one gives a shit about Lindsay. Lindsay was a closeted gay dude that nobody fucking liked. You're making it sound like people gave a shit.
One more, sir. Sorry.
And good job at the dinner the other night.
Thank you.
Did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. We saw the rest of this. That's what Lindsay wanted. Fucking Lindsay. Fuck Lindsay, right? Okay. Speaking of this piece of shit, I think he's talking to Netanyahu here. I haven't watched this yet, but this, thankfully was right after that other one. I didn't watch either one of those, so it just worked out this way.
Basically, they're going to have a 3-judge panel approaching
making the decision very soon.
Very soon. It's possible to have to appeal to the court to say, okay, we want to review this. Before you do anything, before you issue a red warrant, there has to be a review about this entire process. And I suggest that you send a letter maybe with some other senators. I don't know if you can get any Democrats.
I tell you, the perfect person would be the Speaker, Speaker Johnson.
Would be what?
Speaker Johnson. No, to have him on the letter. I don't know. I won't know till I try.
We're going to be in a total piece of shit shell here, right? Netanyahu's telling him what to do. Some letter here. I don't know what this is about. Let me see see if there's more in the comment here. Yeah, so I assumed it was this. Newly released footage shows Lindsey Graham acting as a foreign agent for Israel, conspiring with Benjamin Netanyahu. This is the conspiracy right here, right there. During a phone call about protecting him from his war crimes charges, Netanyahu suggests using blackmail against ICC prosecutor Karim Khan to undermine the court's credibility. I didn't hear that part. Graham discusses recruiting other Democrats along with Speaker Mike Johnson as the perfect pawn. The perfect person would be Mike Johnson. What was the... So basically they're going to have a 3-judge panel. Starts off with that. And then approaching and making a decision very soon. Is it possible to have appeal to the courts to say, okay, we want to reveal this before you do anything, before you issue an arrest warrant? That there's a review process about the entire process. And so there's a letter. So I'm not sure exactly what that, but either way, this is Lindsey Graham being just a puppeted piece of shit, right? Before we get to this next meme, what I was saying before, you know what you're supposed to do. And Charlie Kirk knew that he wasn't supposed to criticize Israel. They gave him like $200 million. I mean, who knows how much it is, right? It's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. And he knew he wasn't supposed to go after Israel in any way. And he brought in Dave Smith, and he brought in Tucker Carlson, and the tides were turned on Israel, and they brought him into the Hamptons. They gave him a talking to because he knew what he wasn't supposed to do, but he did it anyway, right? So,
Anthony, settle down, Anthony. Trust the science. You're just a little behind on all your shots.
so this dude appears to be reacting to Trump shitting himself at Lindsey Graham's funeral. This guy right here. What the fuck? Donald, you fucking couldn't wait 10 fucking minutes, get out there, and you have to fucking shit in yourself right in the middle of Lindsey Graham's funeral. Come on, Donnie. Come on, Donnie Shekels. I mean, Jesus Christ. Look at this guy's face here. Oh, my. Fucking diaper boy. Come on, Donnie. You're fucking better than that. You should. I mean, you can just wait. It's like, could have waited till you could have gone outside or whatever. I mean, I know you had your McDonald's breakfast and Adderall. But Jesus Christ, Donnie, just control yourself, bro. Anthony Fauci's diary, Zika heartthrob. I mean, this is great. Zika heartthrob with the wart. Wuzan whiz, and then I love Wuhan. Keep out, Rand. This means you. I'm wet for wet markets. Right? What else has he got here? Teen Beat, which variant are you? Take the quiz. This is, well done here.
You're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're attacking science. Science and the truth are being attacked.
Under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
Okay, Friday, July 31st here. I've been feeling great. My health's been great. I had a little bit of an episode last night. I'll come back to that in a bit. But I was feeling weak today. And I looked over, I hadn't taken my morning pills. And then I looked over, I make tea every day. Mother's wort and mugwort and a throat coat tea bag with some honey in it. And I was like, why didn't I make my tea today? I looked over and I make every day in a pot, one of those Instapots, a pressure cooker. I make some kasha, buckwheat, and I have buckwheat with usually 3 eggs, 2 eggs in the. If there's less chickens are laying less, whatever. And I looked over and I haven't opened the kasha yet, and whatever was left over from the kasha, I throw out to the chickens. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't eat breakfast today. So I was a little bit out of it, and I'll come back to that in a bit. To go with this stuff with Stephen A. in Israel, I said this was going to be the year of accountability. And a lot of that was based in the prediction that something big was going to happen from whispers, that the day of the prediction was the day the Iran war started. So that big thing has had delayed results, right? With the idea that the Iran war would be the first big event in a bunch of tumultuous upheavals, which I talked about. Like there'll be one thing after another, which, sometimes you get these things in life where you just get one bad news after the other. Like things just sort of spiral and you can't, you're not even recovered from the last thing and you get smacked again. And this happens, it's just a thing. It seems unfair sometimes, but it seems after a while, like I always laugh because I'm like, this can't be accidental, right? It's just one thing after another. And then, there's something that comes out of it at the end, hopefully, whatever, in terms of your spiritual growth. If you take the right attitude, it will. If you're grateful for it and you see it part of God's plan, then it's easier to get through. But, we're going to enter in one of those phases. And you can see it now starting to spiral down. But what I was talking about, the year of accountability, somebody has a fucking motorcycle near me. I don't know if you guys are picking that up. I think it might be our neighbor has somebody going up and down his driveway. I don't fucking know. But anyways, so this year of accountability is about divine accountability. Eventually God will say, you're not that God even speaks, but that there'll be divine accountability for the things that have happened. And you see some minor league have accountability, Fauci and his cronies and all the vax people, and they won't admit to anything. No one ever admits to anything. No one admits they're wrong. I mean, Stephen A. Smith doing that, he did it in the most dickish way. Tucker Carlson taking kind of partial responsibility, but not really the kind of responsibility. Like admitting to it would be saying, I had my misgivings about this thing, and I owe an apology to my audience as much as Kyrie Irving and Tucker Carlson saying that. Tucker Carlson was recently on Stephen A.'s show saying he apologized to his audience for backing Trump when he knew Trump was a piece of shit. Like he said all these various stories and things that he knew Trump was a piece of shit, right? And so that's really, the effects of it. Like in taking, when the kids at my, I have a master's degree in counseling, and there was these 4 programs, and the assault cycle was the first one. And I'll go through the assault cycle, hopefully in some future video. It's good to bring that back around every once in a while. It's a cycle of behavior that leads to, in this case, sexual abuse, but you could see it also for any wrong behavior. I've done a modified version of it. And on the psychological tool, it's, of understanding the patterns, that negative patterns people go through. And part of that, this first year, there's 5 semesters. And the first semester, this is the kids had to go to school, but also they had to go through these counseling programs. And the first semester, they had to admit to every offense they've ever done, any sexual offense, even if they hadn't, it hadn't been brought up. They had to admit to everything. And then they had to take full responsibility, like they did it. There's no victimization. There's no reason behind it, because there's always some shitty reason, some reason that they were a victim. Like, for example, one kid, his dad was getting married. He didn't like his new stepmom, so he sexually assaulted her daughter. He was like 16, she was like 10 or something, to prevent the marriage from happening. And I don't know if the marriage went through, but he got thrown in treatment, right? But, like he would say that he was a victim because he didn't, whatever victim statement, whatever poor me thing, whatever excuse he was using. But all these kids had to take full responsibility for everything they did, and they had to write it down and say, I take responsibility for this, I take, this, all this stuff. And, most of the time it was not sincere, because they were doing it so they could get out, and nobody really likes to take responsibility for the bad things they do. Nobody really likes to do that. And so these people, will come out. I mean, Stephen A. Smith and Tucker Carlson used it as a way to sort of bolster their credibility. Oh, look, I can admit I'm wrong. These kind of things. Still thinking about, how this is going to affect their viewership and their program. It's just bullshit, right? It's a bullshit thing. But the truth is coming out, and there is some accountability, not necessarily governmental consequences, but there'll be more going forward, right? I mean, the people of Iran, the leadership there, have been doing bullshit things there too, right? So there's, these countries, when they fold, and all these countries are going to fold, and the economies are going to fold, and there's going to be real, what they used to call comeuppance, right? Some real fucking things going down that are from a divine situation. Because when you do wrong and you lie, the truth comes out, and then the consequences of your actions are there. And it might take 5 lives. It might take 5 lives. It might take, another generation, but they come. They come no matter what. The truth comes out eventually in one way or another, and then the consequences come with it. So we see that starting to unfold here. Like there's a step where people are aware of and now can talk about for whatever period of time how Israel has, these pro-Zionist groups have been controlling the narratives through controlling the media and controlling politicians. And that's just out there. Like lots more people know about that. And when more people know about that, you witness, everyone has divinity within you. And the more that you work to connect to the divinity within you, the more information goes back to the source. And then it's like a feedback loop. You're witnessing things, and you're witnessing for God, and then the correction comes. And so there are things that are going to go down that, these smug fucks, and the more smug they get, Netanyahu and Trump and the rest of them, the more, like the fucking thing's going to wallop them, right? It just always happens that way. And, there's going to be real consequences for all these things. It's just inevitable. The other thing is, and I keep on saying, I'm the only one I think who talks about this, and you guys would know if there's other people. But, I don't, and if it is other people, they probably got it from me. because a lot of this, it's problematic because there's a lot of Christians, there's people who hate Christianity as a whole and have left it, and they're in the truth community. And then mostly there are people who are Christians and still believe, and they might not believe in the organized religion, but they believe in Jesus and the Bible and things. And the Old Testament, and I've talked about this before, there's a process where you go from being a religious person, you're in a religion, and then you graduate and you become a spiritual person. And a religious person is bound to the religious organization, and it's a group think. It's more about being with other people who are a part of the religion. Most people just show up and check the box. They go to church. They think about other things. They gossip. They have they're staring at women in their Sunday best or something. You know what I mean? Like having kind of different kinds of thoughts and whatever it is. Various sinful thoughts, hating other people. Lusting after other people. These things, right? And for the pastor, it's a money grab. The church itself, they're trying to get as much money out of you. These things. Once in a while, you have a really good spiritual pastor who really works to connect the divinity within himself or herself or whatever they have now. But that's rare. And then you have some really good churches where there's spiritual energy where you can feel it, a lot of life, and some churches have a lot of emotion, a lot of singing, a lot of energy, but they're not it's not godly energy. It's a materialistic thing, and it's a positive thing in some cases, negative in others. But there is a point where you don't just go with the books. It's like being a truther, like where you start doing your own research and you connect to divinity within you. You understand that God's within you, and then you start seeing bullshit in the teachings, bullshit and hypocrisy in the congregation and the church itself, all these types of things. And very few people understand this idea of moving from being in a religion which acts as a middleman between you and God. Like there's promises the religion's delivering and they're going to take care of you, and and they might help you out when you're sick, or you have people will come over. There might be some community there, which community is a good thing, but it's all materialistic, and they prevent you from connecting to God and advancing spiritually. And then there are people like Jesus who leave their religion behind. They see that their religion is full of shit, and not that it's full of shit. It's kindergarten. It's not the end all. It's a good thing to start. And Swami Vivekananda's quote: "A religion is a good thing to be born into, but a horrible thing to die in." And when Jesus started his own thing, the Sajmarg system, Master Charji on his deathbed, he gave this talk where he said, we're not an extension of Hinduism. And it was very clear, like it was that this isn't part of Hinduism. And Daji has erased that talk, that this can't become a part of the religion. It stands on its own. It's something new. Charji he went to a Christian school, and there was, Lalaji he had some influence from Sufi, which is a Muslim spiritual system, some Sufi saints that influenced Lalaji, the first master of the system. They were all Hindus. They grew up in the Hindu religion, but they all transcended it and became spiritual and using the Sajmarg system, right? And it's something new. And, although there's stories there's Hindu stories and Christian stories and Muslim stories, and maybe some other stories from other religions, because it's all part of it. All these other religions are part of, these other people, not the religions themselves, but the, Buddha and Jesus and Krishna, these figures, all these saints that went before, and their teachings, they have merit and value. The Vedas, these various spiritual teachings. There's good things in the Bible. There's good things in the Quran. There's good things in all these books. But, for the most part, they've been corrupted, right? And so something new comes around. And when something new came around in the form of Christianity, Jesus was not intending that Judaism be a part of it. Like he saw the corruption in the Jewish, system and Jewish leadership. But, the powers that be decided to put the Old Testament in with the New Testament. Because the New Testament is, 1/20th of the Bible. Doesn't make up very much, right? And when I was a kid, I liked the Old Testament because they're stories. The other stuff is very more philosophical. It's more adult kind of stuff. But for a kid, you like the stories. I like Noah's Ark story, these things. And so my kids had watched some of the Veggie Tales. We're homeschooling them, and there's a lot of Christian stuff, and the Veggie Tales are, these vegetables that play out stories in the Bible, and some of them are interesting. But when my ex started to read the Old Testament to my kids, we were like, "Oh my God, that's God," because God is not presented as what someone who's more understanding of the nature of God. God doesn't have a mind or an ego. God didn't create man in His image, like God doesn't have a physical body. God doesn't have a body at all. God is an essence. God is an energy. God is God is love, a feeling. God is perfection. And if you have a mind and an ego, you're going to make mistakes. If you have choices, you're going to make the wrong choices. God doesn't have a choice to make any mistakes. God is perfection because everything happens perfectly. And if things happen perfectly, you don't get a chance to think about them. You think about, you remember the many times that you have used your brain to fuck yourself over, how many times your ego and your brain have made you make bad decisions. And it happens to everybody. Like every saint, every person, their ego and their brain gets the best of them and they make mistakes. And God doesn't have that choice. So they have higher developed souls that have given up the freedom to make mistakes and who are, advanced in their spiritual evolution, who oversee God's work on planet Earth. And so there's that part of it. But in that, there is, God is not some asshole up in heaven being jealous and being these things. That's a demon. So the Old Testament and the Jewish Bible are filled with this God who is a vindictive, wrathful God. And he's into a bunch of weird shit because it's not God really. It's a made up, it's all this, I guess eclectic is the word. All these various stories and things, and they brought it all together. And this worship of this demon that's been created, a demon of various forms and people's, pushing their agenda. Like some guy doesn't like uncircumcised penises, so he said, "Hey, God wants you to circumcise all your kids," and whatever fucking bullshit reason or profit that was made because of that, or whatever the fuck they're doing, is has fucked over, all these kids who have this, major operation within whatever 7 days is religious bullshit and all the weird shit that goes with it. The rabbis who are, sucking the wound. I mean, that weird shit, fucking weird ass shit, right? And so if you understand that, then you understand why Christians and to some extent Muslims and Jewish, the Jewish people are all warped in an unhealthy way. Because their understanding of God, they're worshiping a demon in the form of the Old Testament, this creature that they've created that's called God, this fictional creature, and it's fucked them up, right? It's fucked them up in various ways. It's made them, God's a wrathful, angry piece of shit, made them scared of God, fear of God, and also, they're emulating a piece of shit guy who's manipulative and petty and just a, horrible person. And they're emulating this God and looking up to him and embracing his qualities. And then they, so this is a big part of the religions needing to go because of that, right? It's their fundamental building block of their understanding of God is faulty. And, there's all these people that can't understand that or don't want to understand that, which is, for all the reasons that you might think about, right? So that's the first piece. The other piece is, with this thing coming around with Fauci, I have had numerous problems. I got COVID 3 times. I've talked about this. And, I've had all these issues ever since. And, gut stuff. When I first had COVID, there was this, it was like something was stuck right on the base. It felt like there was a knot, like something tightened up right in the base of my sternum. And there's a vagus nerve that's connected to the heart and the gut, and that all that stuff's affected, and that has plagued me to the extent that I've had these heart issues related to my gut swelling up and whatever it's affecting the vagus nerve. And Fauci's and these people have all fucked us over. All of us who have some kind of issues. I work towards taking it as being something from God and that there's spiritual benefit, which I've experienced. We meditate on the heart in my system, and it's really helped me focus more in on my heart than I was in my previous meditations. And there's been definitely some spiritual, evolution because of it. But, his choices and these people's choices wasn't for that, right? Wasn't to be helpful. And last night I had, I've been having this thing where this chiropractor played a role in it. This, with this machine. I've talked about this in previous videos. But in past February, my heart raced up to 250 beats, and it was stuck in a loop. They call this tachycardia, I believe. And then there's various other explanations. And it kind of happened last night, but it was so slow and so infrequent, and it lasted about an hour. But for the most part, it was over in the first couple minutes. But then my heart feels weird. It feels like there's just nothing there. Like when I try to meditate on it, I can't feel the energy that usually when I meditate on my heart, I feel this like loving energy from the Seichmark system. But I couldn't feel anything. It's a weird thing. And it's like it's glitched out and the electrical system's all fucked up. And, it started with COVID, right? And, for this piece of shit to go up there and take the fifth when everyone knows he's guilty and he's going to die, whatever. Hopefully, there'll be some disgrace in his legacy, but he's not going to suffer the consequences from all the suffering he and the big pharma who owns all these politicians and the networks. And there's never going to be any real accountability for it. But, with him saying that, there should be like, all right, there should be like people get off their fucking pitchforks and torches and should go, it's like the passivity. I recently talked about how this guy Dodgy, this piece of shit Dodgy, is throwing his previous master, Chargy, under the bus. And just we're trying to erase him from the mission. And he's done so many things that are bad. And Chargy sent somebody out before he died to tell everyone, don't treat him like I was treated, because when Chargy was made the master, people tried to poison him, and Babaji's kids tried to take possession of the ashram, the one ashram that was near Babaji's house, and there became a whole thing. Became a counter mission. It was like Chargy was tortured. So many people rejected him, didn't accept him, and so he tried to make everyone accept Kamlesh, in a way that he didn't get accepted. And unfortunately, Kamlesh turned out to be a piece of shit. And all these people who know better and can see the guy's just a worthless piece of shit. And he's going against like some of the fundamental principles of the teachings, and he's obviously fallen. They just can't get into it. They can't do anything about it. They're just, And of course, we've seen this over and over again, all of us, with our sheeple relatives and friends. And, to see it with the people who would never admit that Joe Biden was senile and won't admit about Trump now, the Trumpers. And, like, that's another problem. Like, humanity doesn't deserve, the majority of people don't deserve anything. Like, they don't deserve a good life, or they don't deserve anything but abuse, because they are, they lean into it. Like, they don't ever, question these things when it becomes so fucking obvious. And Trump was right. He could shoot somebody in the face in Fifth Avenue and not lose any support, because he's done even worse things. He's lied and promised these people things and then reversed those things so many times. He's been caught or just catching himself admitting to things. I mean, just the Epstein thing in general and all the rest of it. And they keep on doubling and tripling down and, embracing him. And it's just, it's classic. Like, just human beings don't deserve anything good, right? Like, sometimes people are very simple and whatever, that's true. But, this is, again, there needs to be some ability for discernment, and people just don't have it. The majority of humanity doesn't have it. And even if they see that what's going on, they don't figure out a way to combat it and fight against it, and and to raise it to another level. And that's happened time and time again. And that's, unless human beings get better, then people don't deserve anything but suffering. And we're like just extinction, really. Like, this is a failed experiment, and human beings are a negative. They're a parasite, a virus on the rest of creation. And unless something happens to reverse that, embracing some higher nature and evolving to a higher level of consciousness, you can only see there's only really one thing that can happen, and that's the extinction of the human race. So I'm going through the comments real quick, and somebody said, COVID did exactly the same thing to me, Mr. Romano. Nobody calls me Mr. Romano. When people call me sir, you know what everyone calls me? Like if I go to Chipotle or something like that, they call me boss. Like, I get called boss. Weirdly, and I'm totally not a boss. Like, no way, shape, or form. Like, I'm not an administrator. COVID did exactly the same thing to me, Mr. Romano. Honest, I'm 66. I think he may be turning the corner as well. I've had ups and downs. COVID's been hell for me since 2021. So yeah. Somebody wrote this. Depopulation isn't going to happen. Everything will go to hell for sure. But I no longer think mass depopulation is part of it. Well, if everything goes to hell, there'll be mass depopulation. I mean, people will starve and, murder each other. And, somebody wrote, NGL, Paul, you demand NGL not going to lie. Somebody said NGL to me, and I couldn't find out. I searched it, but fucking Google let me down. But, years and years ago, when I first started to make videos consistently in 2014, 15, somebody wrote a great comment. They said, who let their dad have a YouTube channel? Meaning me, right? And I was like 50 something then, but now I'm even older, so that's 10 years ago. So, I don't know all the hip terms. All right, I guess that's it for the comments. Here's the comment right here. I scrolled down to the comments already. Where is it? Not gonna lie, those jokes were good. You must be a demo. I still don't know what a demo is, and probably don't. All right, so that's it for now. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely from the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.